man and one woman from them who could read and write to assist in the guiding work. The escort couldn't help but praise. I didn't expect the guide to have such management skills. The guide waved his hand dismissively. There's no management skill here. It's all thanks to my teachings. Oh, really? The escort couldn't help but regard his younger brother with newfound respect. The overall planning was orderly, and the attention to detail was impressive. It seemed that in time, the younger brother could lead the family to truly rise and escape the fear of hiding. The young man interjected, "Guide, please select 10 capable men and women from inside to help prepare the ingredients." The guide inquired, "But these are all displaced individuals. Is it appropriate to ask them to work? What is inappropriate about this? Those who work have the right to eat first. Go ahead and arrange it." After addressing the woman's need for assistance, the young man, along with his elder brother, began inspecting what should be a temporary shelter at the Liao family residence to identify any gaps. Just as they were about to move forward, another individual arrived. Although the task of accommodating the displaced individuals was assigned to the family, the local authorities were also there to provide assistance. This individual specifically came to understand the situation to report back to their superiors. Seeing the new arrival, the young man invited him to join the inspection. As they continued forward, they encountered a bustling scene filled with steam and noise, along with the occasional sound of pigs, indicating that slaughtering was taking place nearby. Shirtai looked puzzled and said, "Isn't this about settling the refugees? Why are they killing pigs again?" Zhang Xiaochuan, confused by Shirtai's words, replied, "Refugees need to eat too. If they don't kill pigs, what will they cook?" He couldn't help but think to himself that life in ancient times was troublesome. With so many people, they could only kill pigs every day to have meat. If there were a meat processing plant to deliver meat, it wouldn't be so complicated. Shirtai was momentarily taken aback by this statement. It made sense, but it felt so awkward. After all, it wasn't his wallet being used. So why should he care what they fed the refugees? The group paid some attention to the pig slaughtering process, and what a sight it was. A dozen people worked together in an orderly manner. Four held the pig down, one bled it until it stopped moving, and then the four quickly tied up its legs and dragged it to a nearby pit. Next, 2 people poured boiling water over it while rolling the pig. And in no time, the whole body was scalded. The 4 who scalded the pig each picked up a scraper and swiftly removed all the hair. Once the pig was clean, it was lifted onto a large table for cutting. The division of labor was clear, and the process flowed smoothly, captivating the officials watching. Eventually, it was Zhang Xiaochuan who noticed the time and reminded them, "Ahem, let us move on." Shirtai and Zhang Jingren finally snapped back to reality. Zhang Jingren didn't mind and prepared to continue, but Shirtai's face flushed. As a scholar, he had become so engrossed in watching the slaughter. It felt like a disgrace to his status. The group walked forward again and saw large bowls of various dishes being washed and placed in containers. They finally arrived at a row of stoves, which were temporary constructions made of bricks and mud. Though crude, the iron pots were gleaming. Some of the pigs that had been slaughtered earlier were already stewing in the pots, releasing an enticing aroma. Shirtai truly couldn't understand. Typically, when providing relief to refugees, one would just make porridge, perhaps a little thicker if conditions were good, and at most, add some pickled vegetables. But now, with this kind of food, ordinary people might only eat it during festivals. How could they serve this to refugees? It must cost a fortune. It was simply wasteful. The key was Zhang Jingren's nonchalant expression, as if he had no intention of advising against it. These 2 brothers were indeed peculiar. Little did Shirtai know that this was the daily fare at the village, so Zhang Jingren was somewhat indifferent. After a while, the group had toured quite a bit, and Shirtai was quite astonished. He hadn't expected the initial reception work to be so orderly. Just then, a stout man came to find Zhang Xiaochuan, saying the first batch of food was ready and they could arrange for a meal. Zhang Xiaochuan instructed the stout man to organize the meal and led Shirtai and Zhang Jingren to see the food distribution. They saw 4 rows of long tables, each with 3 large wooden bowls and 2 big wooden barrels. In front of each row of tables was a long line, with people holding special utensils. The so-called special utensils included a tray made from 2 bamboo sections split down the middle, forming 2 trough-like trays, and a special bowl made from a bamboo section cut horizontally in half, resulting in 2 cylindrical bowls. When it was their turn at the long table, they placed their trays down, and the person standing behind the table served a spoonful of each dish along with a scoop of rice and a bowl of soup. The portions were not very large, enough for an adult to feel about 70 to 80 full. Shirtai craned his neck to look at the dishes on the table, and his jaw dropped in astonishment, unable to suppress a gulp. Embarrassed, he turned his head to exchange glances with Zhang Jingren and Zhang Xiaochuan, clearly having been caught in the act, and his face flushed. Shirtai saw that the table was set with stewed pork with taro, stir-fried okra, pig's blood tofu, and a soup of pork ribs with beans. Looking at the tempting dishes and the aroma wafting from the steam, Shirtai thought to himself, such good food. Is it for disaster relief or a feast? Lost in thought, he couldn't help but swallow again, feeling quite embarrassed. Fortunately, the Zhang brothers didn't pay much attention to it. They had seen this kind of gulping too many times. Zhang Xiaochuan had Huang Pengzi find a table and led Zhang Jingren and Shirtai to sit down. Soon, someone brought out 3 dishes and a soup, which were indeed the same food provided for disaster relief. Zhang Xiaochuan didn't care about the other 2 and started eating, and Zhang Jingren followed suit without hesitation. After a while, Shirtai, feeling hungry after all this time, also picked up his food and began to eat without holding back. The three of them silently ate the disaster relief food. After a bit, Shirtai couldn't help but ask Erlang, "Are you really planning to feed them this well, every day?" Implicitly, he was questioning whether Zhang Xiaochuan had some ulterior motive for providing such good food regularly. Unfortunately, Zhang Xiaochuan didn't catch the hint and simply replied, "It's probably only for a few days. It would be a bit difficult to provide this every day." Shirtai sighed in relief. That was more reasonable. Eating like this every day would be unthinkable. However, the next words made Shirtai's eyes widen in surprise. Zhang Xiaochuan continued, "The pigs and chickens in the nearby counties have been bought up, so we might not be able to have meat at every meal. It will take at least 3 to 5 months before the new farmers I'm supporting can supply it." After hearing Zhang Xiaochuan's words, Shirtai remembered that he had encouraged the nearby towns and villages to engage in farming recently. It seemed he was serious about it. Shirtai felt he should take the time to visit these farmers. If this succeeded, it would be a significant achievement. After finishing the meal, Shirtai couldn't help but burp, blushing as he secretly glanced at the two brothers, who seemed not to notice. Shirtai couldn't help but marvel at how the disaster victims were eating better than himself, a high-ranking official in the province. It felt quite surreal. At that moment, Mo Tianji came to find Zhang Xiaochuan, saying everything was arranged. Zhang Xiaochuan nodded and followed him, with Zhang Jingren and Shirtai immediately trailing behind. Upon arrival, Shirtai saw that the people they had just eaten with had gathered together, neatly arranged into 40 rows, each with 50 people. At first glance, it surprisingly conveyed a sense of military discipline and grandeur. If each person were given a weapon, they could go into battle. Of course, this was just an illusion. Upon closer inspection, the formation was still uneven, with heights and ages varying. While Shirtai was lost in thought, Zhang Xiaochuan had already climbed onto the wall at the front of the crowd. Due to the large number of people and the lack of a high platform, a temporary stage was set up using the courtyard walls. Zhang Xiaochuan stood on the wall, looking down at the dense crowd, feeling a surge of emotions. At that moment, the noisy crowd below noticed Zhang Xiaochuan on the wall, aware that he was the one who would determine their future, and they immediately quieted down. Zhang Xiaochuan's gaze swept across the crowd, and seeing the emaciated faces of the refugees, he unexpectedly felt a sense of swingan and was moved, inexplicably making a decision to ensure that this group of people would no longer go hungry in the future. After calming himself, Zhang Xiaochuan said, "Dear folks, was the food just now tasty? Did you eat enough?" The ancient people had never heard such an opening line, especially not the refugees, who were puzzled by Zhang Xiaochuan's words. For a moment, the crowd fell silent, and the sound of a pin dropping could be heard among the more than 2,000 people. If there had been a screen, one would surely have seen a huge awkwardness on Zhang Xiaochuan's head. Just as he was about to rethink his opening, a teenager, about the same age as Zhang Xiaochuan, shouted from below, "It was delicious. This is the best meal I've ever had." The boy's voice rang out in the silent crowd like a bell, reaching everyone's ears and shattering the tension and awkwardness. The boy continued in a slightly lower voice, "But it was a bit too little. I didn't eat enough." This immediately drew a burst of laughter. Zhang Xiaochuan's awkwardness dissipated, and he responded with a smile, "As long as it's tasty. But not eating enough isn't my stinginess. You've been in a state of hunger for a long time, and suddenly overeating can be dangerous." A slightly older man from the crowd shouted, "I'd rather die from overeating. It's worth it just to have such a good meal once in my life." Others quickly echoed him, and Zhang Xiaochuan raised his hand to signal for quiet. He then said, "Please don't. Meals like today will be quite common in the future. Let us end the small talk here. What I need to discuss next concerns everyone's future livelihood." Zhang Xiaochuan looked at the now quiet crowd and continued, "I believe you all have some understanding of the methods for resettling refugees, so I want to go into detail. I want to tell you that I have secured double the land for you, which will be distributed according to the equal land system." Upon hearing about the double land, discussions erupted among the crowd, with some expressing gratitude, some skepticism, and others suspecting it was a conspiracy. After letting the chatter settle, Zhang Xiaochuan called for quiet again and said, "What I want to tell you is that the land allocated to you will be wasteland, as you all know. However, this time is different because the wasteland allocated this time cannot be cultivated into good farmland. The fact is, there simply isn't enough wasteland that can be turned into good farmland." This caused an uproar, with people questioning why they were being given land that couldn't be farmed. Especially those who had previously suspected a conspiracy began to stand up to accuse Zhang Xiaochuan of deceiving them. "Please be quiet and let me finish my words. I believe we need to respect each other. To improve our communication efficiency, please refrain from commenting until I finish speaking, alright? If you can't do that, you are free to leave now, and take care of yourselves." As soon as everyone saw Zhang Xiaochuan starting to set rules, they fell silent. Zhang Xiaochuan then continued, "Although what I offer you is wasteland, it is real land. Normally, 1 mu of land can produce about 1 stone of grain per year, and various taxes take up 1/5 of the harvest. Now you may wonder, how can I grow grain on wasteland? I tell you, you don't need to farm the wasteland. You can lease the land to me. I will pay you 1 stone of grain as rent for each mu per year and cover all taxes on your behalf." Upon hearing that they would receive 1 stone of grain as rent and have taxes covered, people immediately thought the terms were too good to be true, causing a stir. However, due to Zhang Xiaochuan's earlier words, the commotion quickly settled down. Zhang Xiaochuan continued, "You must have doubts. Such good rent must come with conditions." "Yes, there are conditions. All those who lease land must become employees of the Great Tang Technology Group Company, Limited. After saying this, Zhang Xiaochuan noticed everyone looking confused, so he explained. The so-called group company can be understood as a particularly large workshop. As long as you work in my workshop, I will lease your land. Someone then asked, what about the elderly, children and women? Zhang Xiaochuan replied, we will provide for the elderly, and women will also need to work in the workshop. For the children, I will establish a school so they can learn to read and write and acquire skills. Of course, working in the workshop will come with wages. Tentatively set at 1 guan per person per month, with the possibility of raises for good performance. At first, when they heard they had to work in the workshop, people thought they were exchanging labor for rent, but they were surprised to learn there would be wages as well, leading to further discussions. One person couldn't help but ask, will you really pay 1 guan a month? Zhang Xiaochuan smiled and said, yes, I will. At that moment, the young man who had earlier mentioned food shouted, if I work in the workshop, will I still get to eat today's meal? Zhang Xiaochuan replied with a smile, I guarantee it. The young man happily exclaimed, I want to join the rabbit technology workshop. Zhang Xiaochuan felt a bit annoyed, thinking, what do you mean by technology workshop? But since you were the first to support me, I won't hold it against you. He then asked, what is your name? The young man replied, my name is Lu Fei. Lu Fei, good name, promising. I have high hopes for you. Zhang Xiaochuan then addressed everyone. If you are willing, you can register later to receive your land deed and lease contract. I will say one last thing. As long as you follow me, the food you have today will be what you eat every day in the future. Do you agree? I agree. Lu Fei stood up again and shouted. This time, after his shout, others followed suit, calling out, I agree. I agree. Supportive voices rose one after another. Chapter 090. Benefactor, please kick me. Establishing the Great Tang Technology Group was something Zhang Xiaochuan thought of while planning to resettle the refugees. Now that it had grown in scale and complexity, it was necessary to form an official organization, hence the creation of the Great Tang Technology Group. Zhang Xiaochuan modeled it after companies from later times, and the original team was all family. The organizational structure includes the president's office, which oversees group decision-making, with Zhang Xiaochuan naturally becoming the president and Yao serving as the assistant to the president. Ministry of Finance, responsible for auditing and controlling the group's funds, accounts, taxes, etc., with Chao Qin serving as the chief financial officer. Ministry of Construction, responsible for the construction of various facilities for the group, led by Mo Tianji as the director of construction. Research and Development Department, responsible for product development, headed by Su Changming as the director of R&D. Production Department, responsible for the manufacturing of group products, with Mo Tianji also serving as the production director. Administrative Department, manages personnel's basic needs, led by Huang Pengzi as the administrative director. Human Resources Department, manages personnel records, salaries, and benefits, with Chao Qin also taking on the role of HR director. Currently, there is no need for registration. Once Zhang Xiaochuan made the decision, the company was established, and he persuaded the relevant directors, primarily convincing Chao Qin. For others, it was simply following Zhang Xiaochuan's lead, with the only change being a new job title that felt both fresh and awkward. Zhang Xiaochuan discovered many literate individuals among the refugees, and, after a simple screening, retained 50 for basic management positions in various departments. Additionally, the veterans in the village contributed 50 literate individuals to join these roles. With positions established, salaries were also set. Core personnel received a monthly salary of 100 coins, while basic management positions were allocated 10 coins per month. Originally, villagers started at 10 coins if they worked for the company, and others received 1 coin each per month. Zhang Xiaochuan merely provided a reference value for salaries, leaving the detailed assessment to Chao Qin. As the company was newly established and tasks were numerous, Zhang Xiaochuan convened the first high-level meeting to explain the functions and responsibilities of each department, as well as outline the upcoming priorities. The meeting lasted 3 full days. Fortunately, after the meeting, everyone had a clearer understanding of the company. However, since this was a new endeavor, some time was needed for adjustment. Although it was a makeshift team, the concept of a company provided direction, improving efficiency. Most importantly, Zhang Xiaochuan delegated authority, which saved a lot of trouble. The next crucial step was construction. So Zhang Xiaochuan analyzed the refugee information, which included 4,700 healthy adult males, 3,900 females, 500 elderly individuals over 60, and 900 children and teenagers. After discussions with Mo Tianji, they divided the 8,600 able-bodied individuals into several groups. 1,000 were assigned to the construction site for new houses in the village. The rest were split into 2 groups, one for factory construction and the other for building homes and schools for the refugees. To expedite construction and ensure sufficient funding, the glass workshop also increased production. Once everything was arranged, operations began to run smoothly. Currently, the situation regarding the Liao family's secret communication with enemy states has been addressed, with Liao Kuan and his immediate relatives facing severe penalties, while others were exiled to Lingnan. As for the invasion by 100 individuals from the Tubo region, it was not taken seriously, as despite being in a period of peace with Tubo, minor frictions had never ceased. Such an infiltration of 100 people was not considered a significant issue. Due to geographical constraints, Tubo had never launched large-scale military operations from Jiannan. So the recent killing of several Tubo individuals resulted in some monetary rewards, without any military response. Recently, Zhang Xiaochuan has been exceptionally busy. shuttling between various construction sites and workshops every day. However, it is reassuring that everything is progressing in a positive direction. And Zhang Xiaochuan is very much looking forward to the day when the new house is completed. Today, he stayed at the construction site until very late because an important factory was completed. While contemplating the upcoming startup work, he went to the kitchen to find something to eat, hastily grabbed a bite, and prepared to return to his room to organize some materials. Writing down some knowledge from his past life before going to bed has become a habit. The light in the room was still on when Zhang Xiaochuan stepped in. A gust of wind blew in, causing the candlelight to flicker. Suddenly, Zhang Xiaochuan felt a heavy sensation on his shoulder as if someone had tapped him. He froze on the spot, not daring to move. He vaguely remembered that an elder from his past life had warned him not to turn around if he felt a ghost tap his back, or else his soul would be taken away. However, he couldn't recall how to break this curse. He probably wasn't interested when the solution was mentioned before. And now he deeply regretted it. He was anxiously wondering what to do. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was sweating and at a loss, the hand was removed. And a voice emerged. "Is it you, benefactor Zhang Xiaochuan?" No, don't look for me." This sounded like a debt collector. Zhang Xiaochuan didn't quite catch what was being asked and hurriedly replied that it wasn't him. Then, he heard a puzzled voice from behind, but Madame Yao said that only the benefactor can enter this room. In this exchange, Zhang Xiaochuan regained some composure. The voice sounded solid, so it probably wasn't a ghost. Taking a bold step, he turned around and, with the light from inside the door, he saw a middle-aged man with a simple and honest face. It was undoubtedly a person he had never seen before. Zhang Xiaochuan smiled slightly at the middle-aged man, though the terror on his face had not faded, making his smile appear quite strange. As the middle-aged man stood there, unsure of what to do, a large foot suddenly kicked him in the chest, sending him sprawling backward. The kick alleviated much of Zhang Xiaochuan's fear, confirming that this was indeed a person. He then turned around and sat down in the room, addressing the person on the ground. "If you're not dead, come in and talk." Though bewildered by the kick, the middle-aged man did not dare to get angry, thinking he had accidentally bumped into the benefactor. He quickly got up and said humbly, "I am Li the Mason. I apologize for bumping into you. Please do not hold it against me." Zhang Xiaochuan found the situation amusing. Here was someone who got kicked and still came to apologize. He asked, "Do you know why I kicked you?" "I do not know," replied Li. "Then let me tell you. Scaring someone can be deadly. So you are not allowed to appear at my house at night anymore." Li listened, somewhat confused but did not dare to ask further, merely muttering, "I understand." Seeing the lingering anger on Zhang Xiaochuan's face, he timidly added, "Benefactor, if you could spare me another kick." "Spare you? You tell me why you are looking for me and why you call me benefactor." Li quickly recounted the whole story. It was mentioned earlier that Li made a living by doing construction and renovation work. After Zhang Xiaochuan revealed his cooking secrets, there were many requests to build stoves. Li the tiler was particularly skilled, making him a sought-after craftsman with a steady stream of work, which greatly improved his living conditions. Upon learning that his continuous work was thanks to Zhang Xiaochuan's publication of a cooking secret, he regarded Zhang Xiaochuan as his benefactor. After completing most of the work on the stoves, Li specially traveled from Yizhou to meet this benefactor whom he had never met before. Chapter 091. Oh. It's all harmlessly the tiler came to Suzhou to visit Zhang Xiaochuan. Since he was unfamiliar with the route, he set out early. But after traveling only a few dozen kilometers, he arrived at Zhang's home by evening. Upon arrival, Yaoer prepared some food for him and asked him to wait in the courtyard. However, when Zhang Xiaochuan returned, he was lost in thought, and Li, being a simple man, softly called out a few times with no response, so he went up and patted Zhang Xiaochuan on the shoulder. Zhang Xiaochuan was deeply moved to find that someone appreciated him so much that they traveled from Yizhou just to express their gratitude. However, seeing that Li came empty-handed, Zhang thought to himself that it wouldn't be right for him to arrive without a gift, even though he didn't mind personally. It was uncertain whether Li sensed Zhang Xiaochuan's thoughts or was just ready to present his gift. He then said, "I have prepared a small gift for my benefactor. All homegrown produce. I hope you won't find it lacking." Zhang Xiaochuan immediately responded, "I won't find it lacking. I just don't know where the gift is." Li understood the question and quickly replied, "Oh, please wait a moment." He turned and left the room, soon returning with a bundle of items. He placed them on the ground and quickly uncovered the cloth on top, proudly presenting, "These are home-laid chicken eggs. Oh, free-range chicken eggs. And these are home-laid duck eggs. Oh, free-range duck eggs. And these are homegrown yams and taro. Oh, organic food. Wait a minute." Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly realized that in later times, such pure, home-raised, organic ingredients would be considered valuable, but this was ancient times, where finding anything harmful was difficult. This truly was a modest gift, but Zhang Xiaochuan was still very happy. After all, he didn't care about what was given, but the feeling of receiving gifts was delightful. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was lost in thought, Li the tiler added, "This is a white fox pelt I hunted in the mountains before." Upon hearing white fox pelt, Zhang Xiaochuan was first startled, then quickly took it to examine. It was a large piece, definitely from an adult white fox, with not only snow-white fur, but also a considerable size, indicating a substantial creature. After stroking it for a while, he couldn't help but sigh. "This is truly exquisite, but it's too valuable." Li insisted on giving it, and after some back and forth, Zhang Xiaochuan accepted it, thinking that if he got married in the future, a white fox scarf for his wife would certainly elevate his status and make him a heartthrob in women's eyes. Zhang Xiaochuan said, but I can't take this without giving you something in return. Since you're in the house construction business, I'll prepare a significant gift for you tomorrow. Hearing this mention of house construction, Li the Tyler had a request and hoped Zhang Xiaochuan would agree. Go ahead, Zhang Xiaochuan replied. The little person originally thought the benefactor was a local gentry, but did not expect the benefactor to live in such a place. The bricklayer stuttered halfway through his description, unsure how to characterize Zhang Xiaochuan's residence. He felt simple was inappropriate, and dilapidated was even worse, so after a long pause, he said, it's quite casual. Zhang Xiaochuan looked up at the thatched house and replied, it really is a bit casual. The bricklayer continued, my skills are not too bad. I'd like to help the benefactor renovate the house, and I hope you will agree. Zhang Xiaochuan smiled and said, there's no need for that. I will have a new house to live in soon anyway. It's getting late, so you should rest in the side room by the door, and we can discuss the rest tomorrow. The bricklayer, fearing to disturb Zhang Xiaochuan's rest, went to the side room as suggested. However, in the darkness, two people were whispering. How is it? Did Erling get scared? Money? No, bullets. The other person reluctantly pulled out a bundle of bullets. Tungi, how do you think with that brain of yours? If I say you're foolish, you can calculate these trivial matters. If I say you're clever, you can infuriate people with your words. I'm just expressing my true thoughts directly. Why should your anger concern me? I was hurt by your words again. I feel so stifled. You're on guard duty for the rest of the night. I'll go back to nurse my wounds. Dream on. You're on guard duty today. Early the next morning, Zhang Xiaochuan got up at the urging of Yaoer, the human alarm clock. By the time he finished washing up, the bricklayer was already waiting outside. Zhang Xiaochuan took the bricklayer to the construction site of the new village. Due to issues with materials and manpower, they were still in the foundation pouring stage, and the rebar for the columns had also started to be tied. From a distance, the towering rebar structures looked quite impressive. Zhang Xiaochuan had Mo Tianji take the bricklayer around, introducing him to what was being built and showing him the blueprints. Zhang Xiaochuan then headed to the newly built factory, which was even more important than the machining and power plants. This was a chemical plant. The previous equipment for chemical preparation was indeed rudimentary, but now it was a significant upgrade. They had set up a chemical factory, which also included a laboratory. Currently, its main function was still experimentation. While it couldn't be said that all the necessary equipment was complete, they had the basic tools needed for experiments, and new equipment would continue to be manufactured. Su Changming touched the vacuum pump excitedly and said, Master, with this equipment, we can conduct experiments in a vacuum environment, which will yield purer compounds. While he was excitedly fussing over it, Zhang Xiaochuan felt emotional but not overly sentimental. With his godlike perspective, he saw that these devices were still quite crude, so he couldn't share Su Changming's enthusiasm. However, having this equipment meant they could synthesize more materials, enabling the production of more devices. After leaving the laboratory, the two went to the next workshop, which was an empty space with equipment still being manufactured. A certain distance behind the second workshop were various large and small pools, some covered, while others were exposed to the elements. A long pipeline extended into the front workshop. Su Changming asked, Master, this large pool behind us occupies such a vast area, even exceeding that of the laboratory and factory by many times. Is it for creating something extraordinary? Zhang Xiaochuan explained. This is called a wastewater treatment system. Su Changming still didn't understand, so Zhang Xiaochuan continued. In the past, we disposed of the wastewater generated from experiments without much thought. But some of that wastewater can pollute water sources, land, and air. We need to purify the toxic substances inside before we can discharge the water back into nature. Su Changming blinked for a long time, feeling that Zhang Xiaochuan's few sentences were far more complex than a chemistry experiment. Finally, he said, I understand now. Is it what you said about protecting the environment being everyone's responsibility? That's right. Su Changming had another question, so he said, but doesn't this require a lot of unnecessary financial and material investment? Zhang Xiaochuan replied earnestly, we are the ones bringing technological civilization to this world. We need to set a good example and establish standards for future generations, so these investments are necessary. Chapter 092. After the ancestor of rivers, it's quite odd for two teenagers to discuss environmental pollution. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at the green mountains and clear waters, thinking about how he was pushing the world towards ecological opposition. He felt a sense of responsibility, but this was also what civilization had to bear. If he didn't act, it would eventually become that way. It's just a pity for Su Changming, who, despite being a genius, was still an ignorant child outside of chemistry. Zhang Xiaochuan assigned Su Changming a new practical project, synthesizing glue. With a new topic and new equipment, Su Changming immediately entered research mode. So much so that he didn't hear Zhang Xiaochuan calling him for lunch. Zhang Xiaochuan had no choice but to instruct Arya to take care of him while he went to eat. In the cafeteria's private room, the meal was ready, and Mo Tianji and Li Weijian were already waiting. When Zhang Xiaochuan handed Li Weijian over to Mo Tianji in the morning, they had already agreed to have lunch together. Since it was a work meal, no drinks were prepared. After sitting down, Zhang Xiaochuan directly invited everyone to start eating. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could speak, Mo Tianji eagerly asked, Erlang, where did you find this talent? He's really great and has helped me a lot. Zhang Xiaochuan was a bit confused and replied, what you said makes no sense to me. Did you mix up the scripts? Mo Tianji, feeling happy, ignored Zhang Xiaochuan's nonsense and said, it's Li Weijian. Isn't he the helper you found for me? Today, I even took him to the site for a test, and now that the test is fine, he can definitely take charge of the construction of the new village. Zhang Xiaochuan initially intended for Mo Tianji to familiarize Li Weijian with modern building methods and materials and to see if he had any talent. He thought that by teaching Li Weijian this skill, he could earn money in the future, which would also be a way to repay Li Weijian's admiration for him. Now it was obviously a misunderstanding, so Zhang Xiaochuan explained everything. After understanding, Mo Tianji felt a bit disappointed, saying, so it was all a false alarm. Zhang Xiaochuan ignored Mo Tianji's disappointment and turned to Li Weijian, saying, you heard our conversation clearly. I wonder if you're willing to learn this building skill. The Tyler did not speak, but suddenly stood up. Zhang Xiaochuan, seeing this posture, immediately knew what he was about to do and sternly stopped him. Please don't kneel, otherwise, I will turn against you right away. At that moment, a line of words floated above the Tyler's forehead, forced to retract and kneel once. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan say this, the Tyler had no choice but to awkwardly sit down and cupped his hands, saying, thank you, benefactor. I have gained a lot from watching alongside Master Mo today. Such skills simplify the complex, and learning them will certainly be of great use. Zhang Xiaochuan took over the conversation, saying, but one shouldn't receive rewards without merit. That would be too pedantic. A fine sword is given to a hero, and besides, Uncle Mo said you have great talent. So it's quite appropriate to pass on this building technique to you. The Tyler was deep in thought upon hearing Zhang Xiaochuan's words. Mo Tianji interjected, indeed, he has talent. He helped a lot today, otherwise, it would have been quite troublesome. This remark broke the Tyler's train of thought, and he blushed, saying, it's nothing worth mentioning. Zhang Xiaochuan, however, was very interested and said, tell me more. Mo Tianji recounted what had happened in the morning. Originally, there was a plan to pour a cement surface for a house today, but the Tyler discovered that there were missing embedded pipes. After carefully checking the drawings, Mo Tianji found that there was a case of double embedded pipes. Perhaps due to the recent chaos, one pipe was overlooked. Being able to understand this new type of drawing and identify the problem in such a short time is truly genius. Zhang Xiaochuan recalled when he first encountered architectural drawings. Seeing various lines of different thicknesses, some dotted and some solid, along with a dense array of numbers, which left him feeling dizzy. In comparison, the Tyler was undoubtedly gifted. The Tyler humbly said, Master Mo overpraises me. I just looked at those drawings and felt as if I could see what it would look like once built. The columns are columns, the walls are walls, and I could even tell that the materials of this house are different from the current ones. This humility made Zhang Xiaochuan want to curse. Can you give me, a person from the 21st century, a bit of face? You understood the drawings just by glancing at them, and even vividly sensed the materials. I seriously suspect you have the eye of true sight. Despite the complaints, the Tyler's words further confirmed his genius. Zhang Xiaochuan had no intention of continuing the topic about the Tyler's talent, but unexpectedly, Mo Tianji spoke up. I think Brotherly must be from a distinguished family. Otherwise, how could he have such remarkable skills? Zhang Xiaochuan felt like saying that it was nonsensical to link ancient talents to noble families without any scientific basis and prepared to refute this. However, the Tyler said, alas, my ancestor is Li Bing from Sichuan. Now our family has fallen so low. I truly feel ashamed of my ancestors. Mo Tianji was surprised, saying, so you are a descendant of Li Bing. That explains it. Zhang Xiaochuan thought, what is so strange about that? It's just a coincidence, otherwise, the descendants wouldn't have fallen into such decline. He then changed the subject, saying, since that's the case, you should stay and learn about new building techniques while helping Uncle Mo. The Tyler declined, saying, I originally came to thank the benefactor and didn't expect such generous hospitality with such rare delicacies. Pointing to the empty bowl, Zhang Xiaochuan and Mo Tianji exchanged a smile. Albeit slightly awkward, Li Weijian, unaware of their expressions, continued, to teach such a miraculous building technique. I truly feel unworthy. Zhang Xiaochuan picked up on the implication, understanding that feeling unworthy meant he wanted to learn but felt embarrassed to take without giving something in return. This was easily resolved. Zhang Xiaochuan said, Brotherly, how about this? I hire you to help build at the estate, and you can grasp the building techniques on your own. That way, it doesn't feel like you're receiving a favor from us. Li Weijian genuinely wanted to learn. It's hard for ordinary people to comprehend geniuses when they encounter matters related to their own talent. It's like someone squatting in a restroom wanting to scroll on their phone, but unable to do so. The feeling is truly frustrating. However, a straightforward person like Li Weijian couldn't accept favors from others. So although Zhang Xiaochuan's proposal seemed a bit forced, it was acceptable to both parties. Thus, Li Weijian agreed, but mentioned he needed to return home to take care of his recently recovered wife. Mo Tianji tossed the bowl aside, saying there was no need to settle anything, and immediately called someone to accompany Li Weijian back to fetch her, ensuring they would return before dark. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, wow, he is even more anxious than I am. Li Weijian looked at the bowl, wanting to ask for another serving but couldn't bring himself to say it, unsure when he would have the chance to enjoy such a meal again. Meanwhile, the plum blossom guards behind him had already pulled him along towards Yizhou. Chapter 093, Director Li Linfu's residence in Chang'an. Li Linfu held a glass teacup, gently swirling it, watching the tea leaves dance within. He then placed the cup on the table, where the leaves continued to twirl, resembling little dancers. Picking it up again, he took a sip, and a refreshing aroma filled his senses, soothing his previously troubled thoughts. Recently, he had accomplished two significant tasks, overthrowing his biggest rival, Zhang Jiuling, and framing the crown prince for rebellion. Now that he had achieved his wish of becoming the chief minister, he naturally needed to strengthen his own power. However, Li Linfu was very aware of who truly held the authority, so he kept his actions subtle, focusing on gaining the emperor's complete trust. The small glass cup in his hand was intended to win the emperor's favor. Presenting it would surely earn him accolades, and if he could provide the recipe as well, that would be perfect. Yet he was anxious about the progress of obtaining the glass recipe, as there had been no results for a while, which was quite troubling. Just as Li Linfu was deep in thought, a trusted aide came to report. Master, we received news from the southwest. It was a failure. Oh, a failure? Li Linfu was slightly surprised and urged, what happened? Speak quickly. The Baigo tribe sent 100 warriors, led by a prince. However, once they entered the Zhang residence, they went silent. The second piece of news revealed that a third of them had died, and the rest were captured. According to the captured individuals, they were unaware of what transpired. They only saw their companions suddenly fall from their horses. Li Linfu pondered for a moment and said, how peculiar. Was there any investigation at the Zhang residence afterwards? Yes, but the Zhang family is heavily guarded, and we couldn't infiltrate. Li Linfu pondered and said, it seems the Zhang family has deep connections. With so many affairs in the capital, this matter should not be overly focused on. He instructed those from the southwest that if the matter succeeded, it would be best, but if not, it would be fine as well, though the movements should not attract too much attention. His trusted aide agreed and left. At that moment, someone outside reported that there were visitors from the palace, and Li Linfu immediately changed his expression to a smile and went out to greet them. Since the addition of the mason, the construction speed of the new estate had increased significantly. The main structure of the estate was nearly completed, and the next steps involved decoration and landscaping. Seeing how quickly the mason adapted, Mo Tianji felt very pleased. Now, the mason was fully capable of managing the construction on-site based on the blueprints. So Mo Tianji thought about entrusting the entire construction to him while he focused on the flight project. Mo Tianji brought the mason to meet Zhang Xiaochuan and immediately began to praise him. Erlang, I must tell you, this mason is truly remarkable. In just a little over a month, he has already grasped the new construction methods. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could respond, the mason humbly said, it's all thanks to Lord Mo's guidance. All right, you two, stop performing. Just get to the point, Zhang Xiaochuan interjected. The mason felt a bit wronged by this. He was just instinctively being modest and was being used by Mo Tianji. The one with the real agenda was Mo Tianji, not wanting to beat around the bush. Mo Tianji said, I'll be direct then. I want to recommend the mason for the position of construction director. What do you think, Erlang? Since it was a recommendation from Uncle Mo, I naturally have no objections. But why give him the position of construction director? The production department currently only has a glass workshop, and Uncle Geng is overseeing it. Mo Tianji chuckled, I just want to get to the sky and fly. Zhang Xiaochuan decisively interrupted Mo Tianji, who awkwardly smiled and continued, oh, flying. Yes, flying. I just want to achieve the goal of flight sooner. I've been too busy lately. But I have a plan, just no time to work on it. Zhang Xiaochuan, with a sly expression, said, you don't need to research hard. I have ready-made blueprints. However, in return, I have a favor to ask of you. Mo Tianji almost choked. You have ready-made blueprints and didn't give them to me? But now Zhang Xiaochuan is using this as a condition, and it's too late to argue. This guy is clever, so I can only go along with it. What is the condition? He asked. Zhang Xiaochuan pulled out a stack of blueprints and handed them to Mo Tianji. Now that the company is established, I thought we should have an office, right? What do you mean by an office? Mo Tianji inquired. A place to handle company affairs, Zhang Xiaochuan explained. This explanation left Mo Tianji somewhat confused as he pondered while looking at the blueprints, suddenly jumping up as if electrified. How many people is this office supposed to accommodate? The overall construction volume is even larger than that of the new estate. Are you building this office to the scale of a palace? Zhang Xiaochuan looked a bit bewildered. There can't be that much work. Let me take a look. After reviewing the blueprints, Zhang Xiaochuan awkwardly smiled and said, I took the wrong one. It's this one. Mo Tianji took a look at the other blueprint. This one is about right, but what was the previous blueprint for? The front building is the headquarters office, which integrates daily office work, business receptions, large meetings, and employee leisure activities. The building at the back is just a temporary office. So Zhang Xiaochuan had to honestly say that the front one is the official office, while the back one is temporary. Mo Tianji slapped his forehead and lamented, Erlang. My dream of flying is still a long way off. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was thinking about how to distract Mo Tianji, he heard Li Huajiang say, Benefactor. I have an unreasonable request, and I hope you can agree. Li Huajiang's interruption was perfectly timed, and Zhang Xiaochuan quickly replied, There is nothing unreasonable, just go ahead. Li Huajiang paused for a moment, gathered his determination, and said, Can I be the one to build this building? Before Zhang Xiaochuan could respond, Mo Tianji happily exclaimed, Great. Great. Li Huajiang ignored Mo Tianji and continued to look at Zhang Xiaochuan. Actually, it didn't matter who built it, as Zhang Xiaochuan was indifferent. He then agreed, all right. Then I'll trouble Director Li. Li Huajiang was a bit confused. What Director Li? Oh, Erlang has agreed to promote you to construction director. Congratulations. Li Huajiang scratched his head, shyly saying, so I'm the director now. Mo Tianji teased, look at your silly face. You still don't know what is different about being a director? Li Huajiang nodded seriously, but unexpectedly, Mo Tianji's words broke his calm. The biggest difference is that the director earns 100 won a month. Li Huajiang's eyes widened. How much? 100 yuan a month. No, no, benefactor. Please take back your order. I came to repay a favor. How can I accept such a great benefit? Zhang Xiaochuan waved his hand and gave Mo Tianji a glance, implying, it's up to you. Mo Tianji pulled Li Huajiang, who was still trying to speak, over to the side and said who knows what, and after a while, the two returned. Li Huajiang bowed and said, thank you for your recognition. I will do my utmost to repay your trust. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly helped Li Huajiang up. No need to take it too seriously. After all, you have this value. He then took out another set of blueprints and said to Mo Tianji, also, the glass shipment is increasing and we need to add some new products. The original kiln is somewhat outdated. Here are the blueprints for the glass factory. I'll give them to you today. Mo Tianji accepted the blueprints with a bitter face and said, Erlang, are you done yet? I originally came to. Before Mo Tianji could finish, Zhang Xiaochuan interrupted. Uncle Mo, I just remembered something urgent. If there are any issues, find me later. Mo Tianji watched Zhang Xiaochuan quickly disappear from sight, then looked at the blueprints in his hand, feeling frustrated. Wasn't I supposed to reduce my workload today? Chapter 94. Floating a great white recently, the entire estate, now it should be called the park, has been bustling with activity. And everyone has been working tirelessly without rest. Zhang Xiaochuan was puzzled. Did ancient people have no concept of rest? They worked every day without holidays. And not only did they not complain, but they also worked with great enthusiasm every day. Zhang Xiaochuan felt very bored and a bit restless lately. So today he secretly slipped into the city, asking his companions Su Dainiu and Tang Yi to keep it a secret. Upon arriving at their destination, the two exchanged a smile at the sign that boldly read Flower Tower. Zhang Xiaochuan waved his hand and declared, today, I'll cover the bill. Let us go in. However, as soon as he stepped inside, an unexpected incident occurred. Zhang Xiaochuan sensed danger. Suddenly, he was knocked to the ground by a large figure. Su Dainiu hurried over to help him up, and, upon closer inspection, they found a drunken man sprawled on the floor, who, despite his state, looked quite handsome. The drunken man slowly got up and mumbled, my apologies, sir. I accidentally bumped into you when I came out. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, how much had he drunk? He clearly had been thrown out, and it was still early. Could he have been drinking since morning? He replied, it's fine, luckily I'm not hurt. The drunken man insisted, even if you're not hurt, I must apologize. How about I invite you in for a drink? He wobbled while pointing at the sign of the Flower Tower. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could respond, a hostess came out. Oh, isn't this young Master Zhang? Come in quickly. Upon seeing the drunken man, she pushed him aside and approached Zhang Xiaochuan, grabbing his arm. Don't mind that drunkard. All the girls here are thinking of you. This was a bit too enthusiastic, and while enthusiasm is good, it shouldn't lead to careless words. It made it sound like I come here often. Zhang Xiaochuan replied. Is that so? Then take me in. I'd like to see who is thinking of me. Just as he entered, the drunken man shouted, I, Li Tai-bai, roam the world with my sword, friends everywhere. You, a mere flower tower, dare to look down on me. Li Bai? Zhang Xiaochuan quickly stepped back, asking, are you Li Bai, the great poet? Indeed I am. The legendary poet was alive, and looking quite youthful. Should I just take him out now? It would save me from memorizing a lot of his poems later. But then again, there's Du Fu, Wang Wei, Wang Chongling. There are too many poets from that dynasty. Losing one wouldn't matter. I'm Zhang Xiaochuan. Let us go. I'll treat you. No, I'll treat you. All right, you treat. I'll cover the bill. Brother Zhang, very straightforward. Please. As they were about to enter, Zhang Xiaochuan paused, looked around, and then jumped into the flower tower with his legs together. Li Bai found this strange way of entering amusing and followed suit, asking, Brother Zhang, why enter like that? Is there a reason? There is indeed a reason. There's a saying that if you step in one way, complications arise immediately. So whether you step in with your left or right foot, complications will arise. Therefore, I jump in to eliminate the front and back. The hostess behind them was left bewildered, wondering if this eccentric young man even had any money. Li Bai clapped his hands and exclaimed, brilliant. No wonder I often get into trouble in brothels. It turns out it's because of the way I enter. Zhang Xiaochuan's mouth twitched. From what I learned about you in my past life, it seems you were thrown out for not having money to buy wine, right? No need to worry about it. You've just been thrown out. Zhang Xiaochuan smiled awkwardly and said to the hostess, I want to have a great time drinking with Brother Tai-bai. Bring on the wine. The hostess smiled and replied, all right, this way please. Once they were seated, the food and drinks arrived shortly. Li Bai eagerly picked up his chopsticks and grabbed a piece of food, putting it in his mouth. Delicious. Brother Zhang, have you ever tasted such dishes? It's truly exquisite, though I wonder how it's cooked. It's perfect for drinking. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at it and thought, isn't this just stir-fried dishes? It seems stir-frying has spread quite quickly. He also picked a piece to taste, musing that it seems MSG hasn't spread yet. Should I start an MSG factory? He said, it's indeed quite good. Just as Li Bai was about to speak, the hostess came in with 4 beautiful women following her. They each sat next to the men and skillfully filled their cups with wine. The delicate hands gently lifted the wine cups and presented them to the 4 men. Li Bai was the first to take the cup, casually pulling the beauty into his embrace. Zhang Xiaochuan followed suit, while Su Dainiu and Tang Yi looked awkward, causing Li Bai to burst into laughter. Brother Zhang, your 2 friends aren't exactly skilled in this area. They look quite shy. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself. I'm not skilled in this area either, but I have surprisingly thick skin in this life. He teased. That's true. I guess this is their first time. They can't compare to brother Tai Bai, who is a master of the brothels. Li Bai, upon hearing this, pondered and said, Master of the brothels, wonderful. This phrase is indeed delightful. Let us raise a glass and drink to that. They both raised their cups and downed the wine. And the women immediately filled their cups again. Li Bai asked, what does cheers mean? Drink up the wine in your cup, Zhang Xiaochuan replied. Appropriate. Let us raise a glass and drink. Zhang Xiaochuan grinned as he finished his second cup. Li Bai asked, I wanted to ask earlier, is this wine too strong? You seem to be in pain while drinking. Zhang Xiaochuan answered, this wine has a sour and bitter taste. I'm really not used to it. Li Bai nodded and said, isn't that the taste of wine? Zhang Xiaochuan countered, should wine really taste like this? Li Bai replied, yes and no. Do you know why this wine is sour and bitter? Zhang Xiaochuan confidently explained, I know this well. After cooking the grain, you add the wine yeast and let the mixture, the wine lees, ferment at a certain temperature. The liquid obtained after sufficient fermentation is the wine. As for why it's sour, that's because it's over-fermented. Either the fermentation time was too long or the temperature too high. As for the bitterness, that's due to incomplete fermentation. Either the fermentation time was too short or the temperature was insufficient. Li Bai clapped his hands in admiration. Exactly. I didn't expect you to understand this at such a young age. Let us raise a glass. Raise a glass. Zhang Xiaochuan abruptly snatched Li Bai's cup, causing Li Bai to not finish his last word. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, truly a wine immortal. We haven't even gotten to the opening remarks, and we've already downed 3 cups. This is a rhythm for drinking to the limit. He advised. Wait a moment before drinking. My younger brother still has a question. What does brother Tai Bai mean when he says that not all wines taste like this? Li Bai sighed and replied. Did you not just explain the reason for the sourness? If the fermentation is just right, then there would be no sour taste. So why haven't I tasted it? Li Bai didn't extend an invitation, raising his cup to finish the wine, and said, those are the finest wines, usually reserved for the palace. Ordinary folks hardly get a chance to taste them. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, how tragic. You can write such great poetry even while drinking this inferior wine. Imagine if you drank the finest every day. He then declared, I've made up my mind. I will brew wine without the sour taste. I will definitely invite brother Tai Bai to taste it in the future. Li Bai patted Zhang Xiaochuan and said, good, I believe in you. Let us drink to that. Cheers. Why was brother Tai Bai thrown out? He saw a beggar at the entrance and, feeling pity, gave all his money and belongings to the beggar. So he was thrown out for not having money to buy wine. Brother Tai Bai is charitable. Let us drink to that. Cheers. Today's dishes are indeed rare delicacies. Let us drink to that. Cheers. Chapter 095. I just wanted to inform you unbeknownst to them. Zhang Xiaochuan and Li Bai had already drunk themselves into a stupor. Clearly, Li Bai had a better tolerance for alcohol, as by the time Zhang Xiaochuan woke up, Li Bai had long since left. Thinking about Li Bai's future, Zhang Xiaochuan really wanted to give him a warning, but he figured that if warnings were effective, Li Bai wouldn't be Li Bai anymore. Besides, his poetry was inseparable from his experiences. It was better to let this talented immortal develop freely. After Zhang Xiaochuan got up, he saw Tang Yi and Su Daniu waiting outside, supporting his still groggy head, with dark circles from a hangover. He was about to get into the carriage when he spotted an approaching horse-drawn carriage. The person inside poked their head out. It was none other than his sister-in-law. Chao Qin smiled at Zhang Xiaochuan and then pulled down the curtain. Why was that smile so meaningful? Not managing to eat chicken. He ran into his sister-in-law upon going out. Should he explain? How could he explain? Online waiting, quite urgent. Zhang Xiaochuan avoided her all day, fearing he would run into his sister-in-law, and only returned to the small courtyard after everyone had gone to bed. After a night of heavy drinking and not resting well to avoid his sister-in-law, he was incredibly tired and collapsed into bed as soon as he returned to his room. That night, Zhang Xiaochuan had a spring dream, gently caressing a soft, delicate body. Unsatisfied, he applied a bit more force, pulling the warm, soft figure into his embrace. His lips, unrestrained, pressed against hers, and the owner of those lips shyly closed her eyes, allowing him to take the lead. Was this young body too sensitive? Why did the dream feel so real? The lingering scent of youthful lips and the tactile sensations were all too vivid. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan thought the dream was about to progress further, a sweet and familiar voice came through. Young master, it's already dawn. I need to get up. Zhang Xiaochuan, still half-conscious, didn't catch what was said, only recognizing it was Yao Er's voice, and he drowsily replied, However, the large hand was still restless. With a slight squeeze, he heard a soft, playful protest. Then he felt the embrace loosen, and he was suddenly awakened. Zhang Xiaochuan rubbed his eyes and finally noticed that a beautiful woman in the corner was organizing her clothes. Who else could it be but Yao? He wanted to ask what was going on, so he called out Yao. Little did he know that calling her made her startle like a frightened deer, and she ran away immediately. As Zhang Xiaochuan put on his clothes, he pondered whether Yao had climbed into his bed voluntarily last night. With a mischievous grin, oh, the young ladies of the Tang dynasty are quite uninhibited. They say this era is open-minded in such matters, and it seems the ancients were not wrong. It appears I'm quite appealing to women after all. After getting dressed, Zhang Xiaochuan went to the main hall, turned around intending to go back, but unfortunately, it was too late, so he steeled himself and approached. Good morning, sister-in-law. His sister-in-law teased him. It's not early anymore. The sun is already high. Young people should take care of their health. Zhang Xiaochuan's face flushed. But I didn't do anything, he thought, feeling inexplicably guilty. Sister-in-law, it's not what you think. She smiled kindly, resembling a mother, and said, no need to explain, I understand. It's normal for young people. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at his sister-in-law Chao Qin's delicate face and couldn't help but think, with her saying that, it feels a bit odd to be called a young person. His sister-in-law continued, but you're not so young anymore. This is on me. I didn't arrange anything for you when we were poor. Now that we have money and are busy, I originally planned to organize things for you after moving into the new house. But seeing how eager you are, I discussed it with Jingren yesterday and decided to finalize things for you as soon as possible. Once we move into the new house, we'll handle it. Can I ask what you're arranging? His sister-in-law chuckled. Are you still playing dumb? Let me make it clear so you have nowhere to hide. It's about your marriage with Yaoer. No, wait, Yaoer and I have nothing going on. How can we talk about marriage? Zhang Xiaochuan protested. It's mainly that my younger brother likes mature women, like Shangwan Fengwan, who is my type. As for Shangwan Yao, I also like Lolis. But marriage would be a psychological barrier. His sister-in-law shot him a sideways glance. Nothing going on. Who did Yaoer just come out of whose room? Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was about to explain, she struck again. She came out of your room yesterday, right before I met you. Zhang Xiaochuan immediately backed down. But before he could say anything, Yaoer piped up. It was the little lord who said he was afraid of the dark. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly jumped up and covered Yaoer's mouth, thinking how could she say everything out loud. He had a pretty good idea of what Yaoer was about to say. After coming back at night and being startled multiple times, he had asked her to wait in his room for him. After he returned, she probably fell asleep on his bed from staying up too late. But if this got out, it would be so embarrassing, so he immediately stopped her from continuing. However, to his sister-in-law, it seemed like flirting. She smiled and said, oh, I'm still here. This matter is settled. After all, Yaoer's mother arranged it before she left. In the wicked, old society, with arranged marriages. Don't you care about human rights? You're actually forcing me to marry a young girl. This is too much. I have to struggle against it. The elder sister seemed to see through Zhang Xiaochuan's thoughts and added, as the eldest brother, this is just to inform you. Also, try to meet less before the wedding. She seemed to think it was impossible to meet less, so she added, whatever, Yao Yao, come with me. Zhang Xiaochuan watched the two disappear, thinking they could do whatever they wanted. He was still just a worker in this life, unable to rest for a moment. He decided to find Mo Tianji to check on the recent construction progress. When Zhang Xiaochuan arrived at the temporary office building, he saw that the steel reinforcements for the pillars on the first floor were already completed. This was astonishingly fast. Mo Tianji came over upon seeing Zhang Xiaochuan. Zhang Xiaochuan asked, previously, it took so long to start reinforcing the steel at the new site, but now it's only been a few days and everything is up. Isn't this a bit rushed? Mo Tianji, sensing Zhang Xiaochuan's concern about the quality due to the speed, replied dismissively. You underestimate the requirements of the Mo family for craftsmanship. The products I produce absolutely guarantee quality. Zhang Xiaochuan realized Mo Tianji might have misunderstood him, so he said, I just don't understand. I didn't mean anything else. Mo Tianji, knowing Zhang Xiaochuan's character, realized he was genuinely confused and explained. The significant difference is quite simple. Previously, all the materials had to be developed and manufactured first, and the construction work was relatively unfamiliar, needing practice and adjustment. Now, with all the materials ready, skipping the development and adjustment naturally speeds things up. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly understood, that makes sense. By the way, how long until the office building is completed? Mo Tianji thought for a moment, and said, probably a little over a month, and it should be finished around the same time as the new site. Zhang Xiaochuan calculated the time and realized it would be just in time for the new year, allowing him to celebrate the new house during the festivities. Chapter 096. Letting you babble. Zhang Xiaochuan went to the glass factory and found it was basically completed. Just waiting for equipment installation. Building a factory now was actually quite fast. Zhang Xiaochuan adopted a simplified structure from the future. He directly used steel reinforcements for the pillars at the four corners, and in the middle, pouring cement, with a beam on top and brick walls. Completing a factory in just a few days. After that, the ground was hardened, and the main structure was finished. Zhang Xiaochuan called Mo Tianji over to the glass factory, where they discussed the new glass technology and how to arrange the equipment. By the time their discussion was nearly finished, it was almost dark. On the way back, Zhang Xiaochuan felt he should talk to Yao Yao alone, as marriage was a matter for two people. Before he knew it, he had returned to his room, where he saw a noblewoman organizing things inside. Zhang Xiaochuan was puzzled. Usually, this time of day, Yao Yao would be here. Who was this curvaceous noblewoman? He cleared his throat a couple of times, and the person organizing turned around, revealing that familiar voice. Ah, young master, you're back? Yaoer, usually plain-faced and simply dressed, now appeared in a moon-colored dress that revealed a hint of her bosom, with lightly brushed brows and a gaze filled with autumn water. Her newly styled hair was adorned with a golden hairpin that gently swayed as she turned. Every gesture exuded charm and the allure of a mature woman, captivating Zhang Xiaochuan at once. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but think, such a significant transformation from just a fitted low-cut outfit. It's unbelievable. Oh no, I've fallen for the mysterious Eastern charm. Yaoer noticed Zhang Xiaochuan standing there in a daze and called out, young master, what's wrong? Suddenly, she exclaimed, oh no, you're bleeding. Zhang Xiaochuan snapped back to reality, pinching his nose and mumbling, it's just the dry weather, a bit too much heat. Oh, then you should sit down quickly. Yaoer said as she helped him to a seat, bending slightly. Zhang Xiaochuan felt the bleeding worsen. Indeed, youthfulness made one easily restless. He had to close his eyes and wait until the bleeding stopped. Yaoer wanted to take a towel to wipe the blood from his face, but he quickly grabbed it to do it himself. He gestured for Yaoer to sit across from him, and once she was settled, she asked, "Young master, do you have something to say?" "Yes, I want to ask if you would marry me." As soon as he said it, Zhang Xiaochuan felt embarrassed. Was it too much blood loss affecting his brain? He had meant to ask Yaoer her thoughts on marrying him, but it came out as a proposal. Yaoer shyly pretended not to hear. "What are you saying, young master?" Zhang Xiaochuan steadied himself and thought, "How do you feel about marrying me?" After repeating it in his mind, he finally said, "Yaoer, would you marry me?" Suddenly, he jumped up, stamping his feet and clapping his hands. "I call you bald. I call you bald." Yaoer burst into giggles. "Young master, what are you talking about?" Zhang Xiaochuan thought, "Oh no, I've fallen for this girl's charm. If I don't marry her, I might be doomed." Regaining his composure, he knelt on one knee, holding Yaoer's hand, and said, Yaoer, would you marry me? Let me cherish you, love you, and take care of you for a lifetime." Yaoer shyly allowed him to hold her hand, unable to say a word. Seeing her hesitation, Zhang Xiaochuan realized this awkwardness couldn't continue, so he stood up and gently pulled her into his embrace, asking softly, "Yaoer, do you agree?" Yaoer shyly nodded and nestled closer into his arms. Outside the window, sister-in-law Chao Qin was using the harshest of family discipline on Zhang Jingren, 180 degrees of meat handling. She complained, "Look at Xiaochuan. You've never said anything sweet to me." As she spoke, she increased the pressure with her thumb and index finger, making Zhang Jingren feel as if he was being stabbed hundreds of times in the waist, yet he dared not cry out, only gritting his teeth to endure. Seeing Zhang Jingren silent, Chao Qin angrily applied even more force. Yang Yuan had been in Luoyang for over half a year since coming from Suzhou. After arriving in Luoyang, I was often arranged by my uncle to stay in Chang'an, where I participated in various gatherings among noble women. Yang Yuan was quite clever. It was obvious that my uncle wanted me to make a name for myself in the circles of noble women in both Luoyang and Chang'an, which would facilitate his search for a suitable match for me, especially since I had reached a marriageable age. Yang Xuanjia could never have imagined that his beautiful niece, who was expected to marry into a wealthy family, had already given her heart to Zhang Xiaochuan in Suzhou. However, history has its own inertia. Although Yang Yuan did not wish to marry into a wealthy family, her outstanding qualities, including her natural beauty and unparalleled talent in singing and dancing, had already earned her a certain level of fame among the noble women in the capital. Reluctantly, but being under someone else's roof, Yang Yuan still endeavored to be a socialite, hoping to assist her uncle. Today, Yang Yuan appeared particularly charming, clearly having been meticulously dressed up for a meeting with Princess Xiani. This princess was the daughter of the highly favored Wu Huifei, and her status in Chang'an was undoubtedly top tier. Thus, receiving her invitation was indeed an honor. As the carriage moved slowly forward, Yang Yuan held 2 wooden boxes in her arms, with the words "jumping chess" written on them in simplified characters. These were sent by Zhang Xiaochuan. The jumping chess brought back from Suzhou had become a sensation among the noble women of the 2 capitals, and both ladies and princesses enjoyed playing a few rounds during gatherings. Consequently, where there is demand, there are producers. Some were made of wood, others of jade. But Yang Yuan's colorful glass bead set was the finest. Yang Yuan knew that the jumping chess in her hands would attract attention, and giving it away could earn her uncle certain political leverage, while withholding it could become a stumbling block. Therefore, she wrote to Zhang Xiaochuan asking him to send her another box of jumping chess. Initially worried that he might hesitate to part with something so precious, she was pleasantly surprised when he sent her 10 boxes at once. At this moment, she sweetly thought, "This little thief really does care about me." Upon arriving at the prince consort's residence, Yang Yuan's thoughts drifted far away to distant Suzhou, and it was only after Xiao Lian called her several times that she snapped back to reality. As soon as she got out of the carriage, a servant approached to lead Yang Yuan and Xiao Lian through the gates and courtyards to a magnificent building. There, Princess Xiani and Prince Consort Yang Hui were already waiting outside, indicating that Princess Xiani cared greatly for Yang Yuan, which was a very high honor. Yang Yuan hurriedly stepped forward to pay her respects. "Greetings to Princess Xiani, greetings to the Prince Consort." "All right, no need for formalities. Come in with me," said Princess Xiani, taking Yang Yuan by the arm as if they were close friends. Yang Yuan found it difficult to pull away and had to allow herself to be led inside. Upon entering, they found a spacious area covered with carpets, clearly set up for a stage. Passing through the carpeted area, they arrived at the dining seating. Princess Xiani led Yang Yuan to sit next to her. Princess Xiani introduced her to the others, saying, "This is the recently famous Yang Yuan from Chang'an." Yang Yuan quickly stood up and bowed gracefully, then turned to Princess Xiani and said, "Princess, just call me Yunu. It's my first time meeting you, and I've brought a small gift. I hope you will accept it." As she spoke, someone had already handed over the gift, which Princess Xiani quickly opened. With a delighted exclamation, she said, "Wow, is this not the glass checkers? I've heard that you have a superb set of glass checkers, and this must be it." As she spoke, she picked up a glass piece, which sparkled even more under the candlelight. Everyone gasped in awe. Princess Xiani sighed, "Truly a superb piece of glass. The color is pure and even, naturally beautiful." Turning to Yang Yuan, she said, "Thank you, Yunu. I intended to decline, But this piece is simply irresistible. I will graciously accept your gift. It's enough if it pleases the princess, Yang Yuhuan replied politely. However, she felt quite pleased inside, thinking that the princess seemed rather inexperienced and naive. If I tell you that I have 8 more sets at home, you would surely be shocked. Princess Xianyi then said. Why do you still call me princess? You and the prince are of the same kin. If you don't mind, just call me sister. Yang Yuhuan, not one to be overly formal, took the cue and said, then I shall be so bold, sister. Ah, that's more like it. However, I must insist on giving you a reward. I can't think of what to give you right now, but I will go to the palace another day and ask my mother for a gift for you. Thank you, sister. Well then, with such a wonderful game, we must play around. Just as Princess Xianyi was about to invite others to join her for a game, a maid came over and whispered a few words in her ear. Princess Xianyi then said, look at me. I got so carried away with this exquisite gift that I forgot myself. Let's start the banquet first. At that moment, dishes began to be served. Music played from behind the screen, and a group of dancers entered the hall to perform. During the banquet, Princess Xianyi was very warm to Yang Yuhuan, frequently toasting her. And Yang Yuhuan responded with grace and appropriateness. Meanwhile, someone behind the screen was observing everything and was quite satisfied with Yang Yuhuan's performance. Initially thinking that she was from a fallen family and inexperienced, they were surprised to see that she only sampled the exquisite dishes lightly, as if they were merely ordinary fare, indicating her refined upbringing. After 3 rounds of drinks and a dance performance, Princess Xianyi said, Sister Yunu, I've heard that your dancing is exquisite. Would you be willing to perform a piece for us? Yang Yuhuan had come prepared for the banquet, so she did not hold back and graciously replied, I will perform the Huxian dance that I recently learned for you, sister. After speaking, she removed her shawl, revealing the dance attire underneath, her exquisite figure fully on display. As the music for the dance shifted from slow to fast, the tempo increased. Yang Yuhuan's dance movements reached the climax, featuring rapid spins. The spinning caused her clothes and ribbons to flutter, making her appear like a whirling fairy, truly breathtaking. Sitting in the returning carriage, Yang Yuhuan pouted and complained, the food at the prince's residence is nothing special. Aside from the expensive ingredients, there's really nothing to it. What a waste of such good materials. Although Xiao Lian was a maid, she was like a sister to Yang Yuhuan, so she chimed in, who says otherwise? Have you eaten enough, my lady? Yang Yuhuan touched her flat stomach and said, I'm so hungry. Xiao Lian immediately replied eagerly, then I'll ask the coachman to hurry. When we get back, I'll prepare something for you to eat. I think you're just greedy, Yang Yuhuan teased. I am greedy. Ever since young Master Zhang sent that iron pot over, it seems I've gained weight. Yang Yuhuan quickly touched her waist and exclaimed, I think I've gained a bit too. What should I do? Xiao Lian playfully teased, don't worry, young Master won't mind. He's such a remarkable person. And I can't count how many young ladies have their eyes on him. He is mine. If he flirts with other girls, I'll deal with him. Yang Yuhuan tried to display a fierce expression, but it looked more like she was being cute, which made Xiao Lian chuckle. Just afraid some people won't want to let go, she said. All right, Xiao Lian, you dare to tease me now? You're banned from dinner tonight. At the prince's residence. After the banquet dispersed, several people slowly stepped out from behind the screen, led by the noble Lady Wu and her third son, Prince Shou, Li Zhao. Princess Xianyi rushed in like the wind. Mother, do you like the princess I picked for my brother? The question seemed more like a way to take credit. Noble Lady Wu smiled lightly, truly worthy of the bloodlines of the Yang and Wu families, a perfect combination of charm and vigor. Her smile resembled that of a queen, captivating all who beheld her. Xianyi did well. I wonder what you think, Zhao? She looked at Li Zhao, who was still lost in the memory of Yang Yuhuan's dance. It wasn't until Princess Xianyi pinched him that he jolted back to reality. What's wrong? Someone seems to have lost their soul. Mother, it seems my brother is fine. Noble Lady Wu smiled. Good, then leave it to me. She took out a jade pendant from her clothing. This will be a reward for the Yang family lady. Chapter 098. Countdown to the move. To ensure he could move into the new house before the new year, Zhang Xiaochuan established a countdown for the relocation. The moving day was set for the 24th day of the 12th lunar month, which is commonly known as Little New Year. Today is the 23rd of November, and Zhang Xiaochuan has been here for half a year. Although the winter solstice has passed, the Sichuan region is still quite warm, with current temperatures around 10 degrees Celsius. There are still 31 days left until the move, and the last villa in the new estate has also been topped off. Zhang Xiaochuan specially arranged a small ceremony, scattering copper coins, grains, and rock candy when the roof was completed. A large red silk cloth hung from the beams. There wasn't enough time to set off fireworks, so a pile of bamboo segments was burned, making crackling sounds, which is also the origin of firecrackers. On November 24th, it was 30 days until the housewarming. In the flower building. Oh, young master, it's been a while since you last visited. The young ladies have been thinking about you. I'd be surprised if you actually meant it. You said the same thing last time. But here I am, he said, as he wrapped his arms around the waist of the courtesan. Wow, you're really soft. These courtesans were once the pride of the industry, but unfortunately, wealthy individuals preferred the young. Women in their 30s, like the courtesans, could only choose to remain courtesans or find someone to marry. The courtesan led Zhang Xiaochuan to a private room and smacked his wandering hand. You're incorrigible, young master. You're quite the expert in charming ladies. Making my heart flutter. Zhang Xiaochuan leered and said, if that's the case, then you should submit to me, and I'll double your reward. The courtesan, having been teased by guests before, Didn't he believe Zhang Xiaochuan was serious and replied, "Don't tease me. I'll just bring the best girls over to keep you company. Just prepare a table of food and drinks for me. I specifically came to see the courtesan today." Is this for real? Zhang Xiaochuan understood that the courtesan thought he wanted her company, hence her strong reaction. However, he was quite busy lately, so he decided to be straightforward. "All right, I'm here to discuss business with the courtesan. Please prepare the food and drinks, and we'll talk in detail." Although the courtesan was puzzled, she still followed Zhang Xiaochuan's instructions to arrange the food and drinks, returning shortly after. "The food and drinks are ready and will be served soon. What business do you wish to discuss with me? I want to book the flower building for a month." On November 29th, it was 25 days until the housewarming. At the glass factory, new glass production equipment was fitted with motors, forming a complete production line. A piece of glass cooling in the mold was pushed onto the conveyor belt, while the mold was held in place by a limiting device, allowing the glass to slowly move forward on the rolling conveyor belt. When the glass reached the cutting position, 2 rows of plastic heads pressed down to secure it, and someone pushed a rotating blade across the glass surface, producing the first piece of flat glass. Zhang Xiaochuan felt a surge of emotion. This seemingly ordinary item in his past life had taken a long journey to be manufactured. With this flat glass, many more items could be made. However, the windows were the most important for now, so he waved his hand, and the new house's windows began to be fitted with glass. Also on this day, glass mirrors were produced. Is this me? I didn't expect to see wrinkles on my face now. Uncle Mo, step aside. The two of us young ladies haven't taken our pictures yet. Zhang Xiaochuan and Su Changming quietly stood behind the 2 girls, watching themselves in the mirror and observing those who were taking their pictures. A soft body magnetically pressed against Zhang Xiaochuan's arm, and 2 hands continuously shook his arm. "Young master, I want my, it's exhausting. Just when I want it made Zhang Xiaochuan's bones feel weak. All right, got it arranged. But what? The shaking of my arm got even worse. However, I prepared a makeup box." Zhang Xiaochuan magically produced an exquisite wooden box, neatly filled with blush. And the lid contained a glass mirror. "Wow, I really like it." Saying this, I gave a quick peck like a little chick pecking at rice, then ran off like the wind. Zhang Xiaochuan was sweetly touching his cheek when he caught sight of Mo Tianji and Su Changming, who had eyes like they were about to commit murder. Additionally, Zhang Xiaochuan pointed to a large wooden chest filled with a batch of makeup boxes with mirrors. He decided to keep 2 for Yang Yuhuan and 1 for Pei Rou. The rest would go to his older brother, Mo Tianji, Huang Pengzi, and the others. They could give them to whoever they wanted. On December 2nd, it had been 22 days since the relocation. All the peppers exchanged with Camilla had been cultivated. To preserve as many seeds as possible, Zhang Xiaochuan didn't eat a single green pepper, harvesting only the red ones. Now, he was cooking with some peppers on the side, but didn't he dare take them to the cafeteria, otherwise, just a few pounds wouldn't be enough for a day. Today marked the last batch of pepper harvest, totaling about 2 pounds of seeds, which could be planted on approximately 15 to 20 acres. Based on the weather in Suzhou, planting could begin right after the new year, allowing for 2 to 3 crops a year, and by the second half of the year, they could expand to nearly 10,000 acres. At that time, they would promote planting to local farmers. On December 6th, the last batch of custom ceramics arrived from outside, including ceramic toilets and tiles. On December 9th, the interior and exterior walls of the new village were finished painting, with no special colors, red tiles, and white walls. On the same day, the new office building and the resettlement area for the displaced were completed. On December 12th, furniture was moved into the new village, office building, and resettlement community. On December 15th, they began installing light fixtures. Due to limited resources, currently, only the office building and the countyman's residence had lights installed. Other areas still lacked power, mainly due to difficulties in manufacturing electrical wires and insufficient raw materials for synthetic plastics. On December 17th, all the cement roads in the village were completed. Zhang Xiaochuan stood in the village, looking outward, aside from the greenery needing improvement. It was quite similar to a villa area from a later era. For a moment, he felt as if he had returned to the 21st century. On December 19th, all the invitations had been sent out, and Zhang Xiaochuan's approach was quite ostentatious, making it known throughout Suzhou. Officials, gentry, and wealthy merchants in Suzhou were all invited. And ordinary people could also come to witness the event, although no feast would be provided. On December 20th, 200 carts of Jiannan Shaochun arrived, which Zhang Xiaochuan had exchanged for a recipe from a later era. Of course, the wine still had to be paid for. But buying such a large quantity was not easy, mainly due to the low yield and outdated technology being a significant drawback. On December 21st, the resettlement community for the displaced was fully occupied. Due to time constraints, all the constructions were single-story houses, but they reserved space for stairs to begin building 2-story houses once everything was on track. Each resettlement unit consisted of a front and back room, with the front being 3 large tiled rooms, a small courtyard in the middle, and a single-story house at the back. 5 households form a small row separated by narrow paths, with 3 groups in between connected by a wide avenue, making up a total of 30 households in a complete row. 10 rows constitute an area of 300 households, with 1 wide avenue serving 2 areas to form a community. The entrance gate prominently displays the name of the community as Happiness Community Phase 1. On December 22nd, Zhang Xiaochuan finally moved into his new home, featuring a smooth cement floor, white lime walls, and a stainless steel staircase winding upwards. The bedroom contained a large bed, 2 meters wide, flanked by bedside tables, along with old-fashioned desk lamps typical of the 1980s and 90s, embodying a simple decoration style. Zhang Xiaochuan's house was built side by side with Zhang Jingren's, positioned in the center of the entire village, with a wide avenue leading directly from between the two villas to the village gate. The other villas surrounded these two in a protective manner. On December 23rd, the annual pig slaughter took place in the open space to the north of the office building, where dozens of large pits were dug. Today, not only were ingredients for the relocation banquet being prepared, but also the pork for the upcoming New Year festivities. This was all thanks to the industrialized farming that Zhang Xiaochuan had initially promoted, which now ensured a sufficient supply of various poultry and meats. Chapter 99. The shameful costume. On December 24th, the people from the entertainment house rose early, as their biological clocks had shifted recently. This venue originally operated at night and rested during the day, but since being booked by Zhang Xiaochuan, they had been rehearsing during the day and resting at night. The proprietor, known as Hua Qingwu, was 36 years old and was affectionately called Sister Hua by the girls in the establishment. Initially, she only wanted to manage the entertainment house, hoping to find a suitable husband if luck was on her side, or to simply live out her days if it wasn't tea. However, the past month had been a tremendous shock to her, as she had been exposed to a completely new style of song and dance. From initial disdain and resistance, she gradually accepted it, and now she felt completely brainwashed. It seemed that her mind could no longer accommodate the old performances, and just as her thoughts were swirling, a maid's voice interrupted. Sister Hua, it's time. Hua Qingwu composed herself, adjusted her cloak, as the sky was just beginning to brighten and there was still a chill in the air. Go ahead and call the girls down. After giving the order, she made her way to the third floor of the office building, where rehearsals had been taking place recently. Upon reaching the third floor, it was different than usual, with 2 additional rows of clothing racks filled with costumes for the day's performance. Hua Qingwu stood there in a daze, pondering how to wear such strange outfits, feeling as uncomfortable as if she had swallowed a fly. At that moment, the girls arrived and noticed the clothes hanging on the racks. They rushed over excitedly, but fell silent upon seeing the styles. One girl exclaimed, Sister Hua, how do we wear these? They are simply hideous. Another chimed in, exactly, it feels like the Zhang family is trying to humiliate us. Then let's not perform. We can't endure this kind of humiliation. I won't perform either, regardless of the pay. 100,000. Hua Qingwu calmly stated. Ah, the girls gasped in shock. Sister Hua, you keep your lips sealed so tightly. Why didn't you say this sooner? How much will each of us get? Get how much? You'll end up bankrupt. The sum of 100,000 coins is the compensation we owe to the Zhang family for not performing. Ah, the young women gasped in unison. Why, Sister Hua, how could you agree to such ridiculous terms? Hua Qingwu felt distressed, but who could she blame? The moment she heard about the 30,000 coins for a month at the flower building, she lost her composure and unwittingly signed that so-called contract. Who would have thought that Zhang Xiaochuan's package was not just about providing certain services or simple singing and dancing, but had so many rules? And the dances were strange too? So, Hua Qingwu wanted to quit. She confronted Zhang Xiaochuan about it, and that was when she learned a lot. It was the first time she understood what breach of contract meant. It was the first time she learned about force majeure. It was the first time she realized a contract could be dozens of pages long. It was the first time she felt her heart fluttered by a teenager. A peculiar first. Just when Sister Hua was lamenting and didn't know how to respond, the young women started to stir again. Sister Hua, we should go find that Mr. Zhang. This is too much. We absolutely refuse to wear these clothes. Exactly. Even if we have to perform such strange dances. Wearing these clothes is unacceptable. Sister Hua, say something. Hua Qingwu, on the verge of tears, said, what can I say? Even if we find him, it would only be humiliating. I don't know how to explain it to you all. In short, we must wear these clothes and perform this dance today. Saying that, she picked up a piece of clothing to put on. But how could this even be considered clothing? My goodness, what should I do? This cursed contract left me no right to refuse or negotiate. What if I refuse to wear it? I can't afford to pay 100,000 coins. Don't be fooled by the high income from the gray industry. Many unsavory characters expect their share, and what is left is not much. 100,000 coins is life-threatening. Just as Hua Qingwu was contemplating whether to jump from the third floor, 2 beautiful women walked in from the staircase. The first wore deep purple flared pants that clung tightly to her legs, accentuating their curves, and a water-green high-waisted shirt that revealed her slim waist. Her figure alluring and captivating. Her long hair was neatly styled back into a ponytail without a strand out of place. The second woman's outfit was similar, but in lighter colors, black pants and a white shirt. Hua Qingwu and the other young women had never seen such a classic office look. A blend of sensuality and intellect that left them stunned. Breaking the silence, the newcomer said, Sister Hua, have you been mesmerized by my beauty? She strutted in a catwalk style, turning around with a queenly flair, sweeping her gaze across the crowd. After all that, Hua Qingwu and the others were still in shock. This oddly shaped clothing was surprisingly sexy. Instead of feeling strange, it felt quite captivating. I want to wear it. The young women collectively shouted in their hearts. Hua Qingwu was the first to regain her composure and said, Pei Rou, what are you doing here? Didn't you go get married to Yang Zhao? My brother was worried that you wouldn't know how to wear these clothes, so he specifically asked me and Yao to help you out. Look at this, ha ha ha. Sorry, ha ha. Hua Qingwu looked at Pei Rou, who suddenly went crazy, with a confused expression. She gave her a heavy slap on the backside and said, Why are you still acting all crazy? What are you laughing at? Sorry, haha, let me catch my breath, cough cough cough. Clearly, Pei Ro was on the verge of injury from holding back her laughter. After a while, she lifted her head to look at Hua Qingwu, and it seemed she was about to laugh again. At that moment, Yaoer reached out from behind and took off the outer garment that was worn incorrectly over Hua Qingwu's bra. Only then did Pei Ro return to normal. And Hua Qingwu understood what Pei Ro was laughing at. She immediately turned red with embarrassment and playfully slapped Pei Ro's backside twice, making it jiggle. If you laugh again, I'll be angry. Teach me how to wear it properly. Old Man Lu, being literate, was elected as the head of the first phase of the Happy Community, mainly responsible for coordinating the residents and conveying the assignments from the authorities and the Zhang family. However, since it was still the period for settling the displaced people, the Zhang family essentially managed everything. Old Man Lu was diligent and fair, organizing the community well, and he has now been promoted to the head of 5 communities. Old Man Lu was directing everyone to collect the New Year supplies, 5 pounds of pork, half a chicken, half a fish, and 5 pounds of rice per household. Each community would distribute their supplies accordingly. As everyone had almost finished collecting, Old Man Lu called out, "Make sure to put away your things and come back early. Everyone should stand in the agreed positions, so it doesn't get messy later. Don't worry, Old Man Lu, I guarantee our Phase 2 will be the loudest. You wish. Our Phase 1 will definitely be the loudest. After all, Old Man Lu is our old head, right?" Seeing them argue endlessly, Old Man Lu quickly intervened. "All right, there's nothing to argue about. Be sincere, now off you go." Chapter 100. Inspector's visit to the neighborhood. The invitation from the Zhang family stated that the banquet would start at noon. As the governor of the state, Zhou Pengyan should have arrived on time or a bit late. However, he came early because he had heard so much about the Zhang family recently and wanted to see for himself. After getting up early, Zhou Pengyan took a short rest in the carriage. Suddenly, he felt a strong thrust forward, almost knocking him against the carriage door. Angrily, he asked, "You there? How are you driving the carriage?" "My lord, please calm down. It's not that I'm not driving well. It's just that my lord should get down and take a look." Upon hearing the driver say this, Zhou Pengyan was curious, so he said while getting down, "I would like to see what is going on." Before he could finish his sentence, Zhou Pengyan was stunned by the scene before him. A perfectly smooth road wound ahead. With no end in sight, Zhou Pengyan stepped onto the road, finding it very hard. Touching it, he realized it was as hard as rock but a bit rougher, making it perfect for a road surface. Just having left the city, it was still about 20 to 30 miles to the Zhang family, and in just a few months. This road had been built quietly. It was hard to believe without seeing it with his own eyes. Zhou Pengyan collected his thoughts and got back into the carriage to continue his journey. The vehicle moved smoothly along the cement road, with no bumps at all. On both sides of the road, many houses were under construction. The fields that were supposed to be planted with rice were now filled with various vegetables, creating a unique scenery. Just as Zhou Pengyan was immersed in the view, the carriage came to a slow stop. Ahead was a crossroads, and it was clear that the driver was unsure which way to go. Unfortunately, Zhou Pengyan was in the same predicament, which made it awkward. As they hesitated, another horse-drawn carriage approached from behind and stopped behind Zhou Pengyan. A person got off the carriage, and it turned out to be Deputy Shirtai. "Governor, I didn't expect you to arrive before me, but why have you stopped here?" Zhou Pengyan said somewhat awkwardly. "The roads have been newly repaired, and I truly don't know which way to go." Shirtai smiled and replied, "That's understandable. It's no wonder the governor can't find the way. You see, at this intersection, going straight leads to the Zhang family's workshop, where the banquet is being held today. To the left is a settlement for displaced persons, now called Happy Home. To the right is the Zhang family's new estate. I wonder where the governor intends to go." After a moment's thought, Zhou Pengyan said, "Since it's still early, I would like to visit the settlement for displaced persons. Then I shall accompany you." Shirtai responded. The carriage turned left, and after a while, they arrived at a large square. Surrounding the square were artificial hills, pavilions, ponds, corridors, and grape trellises, all in place. On the north side of the square, a large building caught their attention. As Zhou Pengyan and Shirtai approached, they saw a sign above the entrance that read Neighborhood Public House. The faint scent of sandalwood wafted from the entrance. They stepped inside and quickly came back out, both wearing peculiar expressions. In the end, Zhou Pengyan couldn't help but speak up. "What a waste. Such a good building, and I thought it was a place for scholars to exchange ideas. But it turned out to be a place filled with filth, and they even burn incense here. I can't believe it. I, as a governor, have come to visit a toilet for the first time." Shirtai also smiled awkwardly, and the two looked back at the square. There, they saw a large pentagram pattern, with each point facing a road. Following the path ahead, there was an archway with a plaque that read Phase 1 of Happy Home, while the other 4 were labeled as Phases 2, 3, 4, and 5. They moved forward again, and due to the surrounding walls, they had to pass through the archway to see the orderly houses inside. Each house had a uniform courtyard layout, with the front houses featuring red tiles and white walls, while the back houses had flat roofs. Although somewhat unusual, it was clear that the houses were solid and durable. Zhou Pengyan sighed. Such good houses. Even affluent families would find it hard to live in them, yet they are used to house displaced persons. Shirtai interjected. Who would have thought? The governor probably hasn't looked closely yet. Is there some hidden secret? Zhou Pengyan, saying this, walked towards one of the houses. As he got closer, a glint of light caught his eye. He exclaimed, "Could it be? Could it be? Could it be?" Zhou Pengyan repeated the phrase 3 times, afraid to voice his guess. Shirtai took over the conversation, saying, "It's a glass window." Zhou Pingyan still found it hard to believe. His eyes wide with astonishment as he asked, "Is it really?" "It truly is," Shirtai confirmed. Shirtai paused for a moment and continued, "And it's all too extravagant. This glass is hard to come by. So smooth and transparent. I can't believe it's being used for windows." After a moment, Zhou Pingyan lamented. "It should be used for those refugees. I, as the head of a province, don't even have this. Sigh, not to mention me. Even the one in the palace probably doesn't have it." With a flick of his sleeve, he added, "It's too hurtful to my dignity. I'm leaving. I can't bear to look at it anymore." Halfway out, he turned back to Shirtai. "Wait a minute, you've been here before. How could you not know what's in the square?" "I recognized it immediately when I saw it in the office building. This is my first time coming here since the relocation housing was completed." Zhou Pingyan and Shirtai retraced their steps and arrived at the fork in the road, then turned toward the office building. As they approached, a host came over to greet them. Although dressed somewhat differently, the host's figure was well-defined yet modest, exuding a special dignified demeanor. The two followed the host inside, where the banquet area for guests was located on the first floor of the office building. There were already some people inside, chatting and drinking tea. As they entered, Zhang Jingren came forward to welcome them and led them to the officials' resting area, where they saw the county magistrate of Qingcheng, the deputy of the municipal office, and several military leaders had already arrived. The two stepped forward, and upon recognizing the two officials, everyone greeted them and began to enjoy tea and conversation, discussing various new topics from Zhuangzi. Time passed quickly, and before they knew it, it was almost noon when there was a commotion outside. Today was the relocation banquet. Although Zhang Xiaochuan had made a lot of preparations, he wasn't particularly fond of crowds. He simply felt that the common people of this ancient era lived in poverty and wanted to bring some excitement to the people of this place and this dynasty. The banquet arrangements had been made in advance. Everything was proceeding as planned, with all conceivable details taken care of. As for the specific implementation, Zhang Xiaochuan was willing to go with the flow. Whatever happened would happen. There was no standard to adhere to. To put it bluntly, he was just lazy. Zhang Xiaochuan slept until late morning, and when he finally stepped out, he immediately noticed something unusual. In front of him was a sea of people, led by Old Man Lu. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could speak, Old Man Lu waved his hand. "Lift him up." As soon as Old Man Lu's words fell, several strong men rushed over to carry Zhang Xiaochuan and placed him on a bamboo sedan chair. By the time Zhang Xiaochuan came to his senses, he was already being lifted up. What is going on? This wasn't part of today's plan. Ahead, someone was ringing a gong to clear the way, and others held ceremonial tablets, lanterns, and banners, marching in formation. Following them were 2 rows of Taoist priests, holding dust whisks and chanting incantations. This scene was all too familiar. Anyone who had watched court dramas would know this was not unlike an imperial procession. Were they going to crown him emperor? But it didn't seem like it, as there were also rows of Taoist priests in the procession. He decided to directly ask Old Man Lu beside him. Old Man Lu was walking alongside, clearly in high spirits and not intending to clarify anything for him. However, sitting in the bamboo sedan chair was quite comfortable. It swayed gently with the movements, making it rather pleasant. Let them do as they wish. If they want to carry me, then let them carry me. I'll find out what is going on soon enough. The new village is not particularly close to the office building. A large group of people walked in a long line for about 20 minutes and could already see the office building ahead. The ceremonial team directly led the bamboo sedan to the stage, which was set up for performances after today's banquet. Due to the large number of attendees, a big stage was built outside. In the center of the stage sat a grand chair, and after the ceremonial team ascended the stage, they lined up on either side of the chair. Zhang Xiaochuan, feeling a bit dazed, was helped onto the grand chair. Then, an elder shouted, "Welcome, Master Zhang." Below, the crowd responded in unison, "Welcome, Master Zhang." Zhang Xiaochuan was confused and pointed at his own face. "Master Zhang, are you all out of your minds?" However, no one heard his protest as the elder continued to shout, "Kneel." The crowd promptly knelt down in unison, creating a spectacle that resembled rolling waves. Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to stand up and call for a stop, but he was firmly held down by 2 strong men beside him. Given the situation, it seemed he wouldn't be able to get up until the crowd finished their kneeling. But where did this title of Master Zhang come from? Can anyone just use these 3 characters? This is going to shorten my lifespan. Even more frustrated than Zhang Xiaochuan was the Taoist priest on stage. What on earth was happening? Performing rituals for a living person was one thing, but doing it for Master Zhang, who was a founder of the Taoist tradition, was something no one should take lightly. However, given the current atmosphere, if he didn't cooperate and let the ceremony continue, he might be in serious trouble. The poor priest thought to himself, "Forgive me, master. I truly have no control over this." The elder continued, "Bow." The crowd bowed in unison. After 3 calls and 3 bows, the elder announced, "Half a year ago, we were in rags and starving. We didn't know how many of us would die of hunger along the way. It was only when we arrived here that we finally had food, shelter, and, most importantly, hope for a better life. All of this was brought to us by Master Zhang. To express gratitude for Master Zhang's blessings, I, Lu Jinyuan, vow to build a shrine for Master Zhang and burn incense for him daily." The crowd echoed Lu Jinyuan's words. "We vow to build a shrine for Master Zhang and burn incense for him daily." Meanwhile, guests in the office building were engaged in intense discussions. No wonder so many new and strange things were emerging. It turned out that a master had descended to the mortal realm. Indeed, look at these refugees. Under the master's protection, Their faces are rosy, clearly living well. Truly worthy of being called a master. Look at these houses. They are unlike anything we've ever seen. And this glass, such large, smooth panes used for windows, before today. We hadn't even heard of such a thing. No wonder my foolish younger brother has suddenly become so smart. It must be because the master has possessed him. What great fortune for the Zhang family, said Zhang Jingren, an earthly immortal. If this were reported as an auspicious sign, it would be a tremendous achievement, said Zhou Pingyan. Just as everyone was lost in their thoughts, the ceremony on stage shifted again. The elder bowed and invited Zhang Xiaochuan to say a few words. Zhang Xiaochuan stood up and slowly walked to the front of the stage, first turning to look at the elder. Before I speak, I would like to ask, what is the matter with me being referred to as Zhang Tianshi, and who said that? Elder Lu respectfully replied, reporting to Tianshi, this is what Fu Bo mentioned, saying that you once fell off a cliff at the sacred Taoist site, Qingqing Mountain, and died only to come back to life. After that, you seem to possess various divine abilities. We speculated that you are the reincarnation of Tianshi, and it was later confirmed by a high monk. Zhang Xiaochuan internally cursed Fu Bo for his big mouth, while also feeling exasperated by Elder Lu's words. Is this even sensible? The reincarnation of a Taoist ancestor. Confirmed by Buddhism? Are you kidding me? However, Zhang Xiaochuan quickly thought that his actions were too out of place after being reborn. He didn't want to just survive, but to live boldly and flamboyantly, striving for clarity of thought. So, this persona of being a reincarnated immortal or a descendant of immortals made sense and felt very ancient. He then pretended to be self-deprecating and said, I thought I was hiding it well, but it turns out everyone guessed it quite accurately. Unfortunately, I am not the reincarnation of Tianshi. Upon hearing this, the audience immediately started to discuss amongst themselves, creating a cacophony. Zhang Xiaochuan paused for a moment, signaled for everyone to quiet down, and continued, however, my master is a Taoist Tianshi, so you can call me Xiao Tianshi. The crowd shouted in unison, Xiao Tianshi. Xiao Tianshi. After they finished shouting, someone unexpectedly asked a question. Since you are Xiao Tianshi, does that mean you are above all the masters? For a brief moment, Zhang Xiaochuan's brain short-circuited. How should he respond to such a tricky question? If he said no, then Xiao Tianshi would just be a joke. If he said yes, that would mean trampling on all Taoism. Either way, it was a dead end. Who asked that? Step forward, I promise I won't hurt you. What to do? What to do? I'm waiting online. No time left, so let us just bluff. Everyone, be quiet. When I met Zhang Tianshi, my master, he said I have a connection to the immortals and accepted me as a named disciple, teaching me some immortal techniques to help save the people. Since my master had never accepted disciples from the mortal realm before, he was concerned that my identity would tempt practitioners to seek shortcuts. So he forbade me from getting involved with the Taoism of the mortal world. Seeing that the audience had calmed down, Zhang Xiaochuan clearly felt they accepted his explanation. Clearing his throat, he continued, therefore, to obey my master's orders, what happened today must not be spread, and from now on, you are not allowed to call me Xiao Tianshi. Elder Lu, who had some education, interjected, we will strictly follow Xiao Tianshi's orders. Following that, the crowd shouted in unison. We will strictly follow Xiao Tianshi's orders. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at the people below, his heart filled with sarcasm. I came through with technology. How did it suddenly turn into this absurd situation? How did I become a charlatan? However, with this disguise, I could act more recklessly. Chapter 102. A warm welcome. As the farce ended, Zhang Xiaochuan announced that they could take their seats. The scene of thousands dining together was quite spectacular. The food, while good for the people of Zhangjiazhuang and Shifan community, was not overly impressive. The only difference was that there was actually beef. In ancient times, killing cattle was targeted at the poor. If you wanted beef, it was not a problem as long as you had money. However, the beef that Zhang Xiaochuan served was imported from a certain region. As for the guests inside, they were either wealthy merchants or officials, all of whom disregarded their image and were quite unrefined, worried that they might not get any dishes if they were slow. Fortunately, the serving speed was quick, otherwise, it would have been quite awkward. After all the dishes were served, Zhang Xiaochuan and his brother Zhang Jingren raised their glasses to toast. Although Zhang Jingren held a noble title, his younger brother was the real standout at the moment. So it became Zhang Xiaochuan leading the toast with Zhang Jingren standing beside him. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Zhang Xiaochuan raised 3 glasses in a toast to everyone and was just about to step down when he heard someone from the audience ask, Little Celestial Master, I wonder if those glass windows are for sale? Pointing at the windows of the office building, Zhang Xiaochuan really wanted to retort, wondering who would dismantle their house during a housewarming. But then he thought, maybe the person was just asking if there were any windows for sale. He shook his head, realizing he had become too quick to react. So he replied, you mean the flat glass, right? Yes, it's for sale. But you'll have to wait until after the new year. Then he addressed everyone, raising his voice. The 15th day of the first lunar month is a great day. And I will still be here to hold the opening ceremony for the Great Tang Technology Group and the Glass Release Conference too. 0. Everyone only partially understood what Zhang Xiaochuan was saying about the opening ceremony and conference, but the key point was that sales would start on the 15th, which everyone grasped. This earned him a round of applause. Zhang Xiaochuan continued, after the banquet, there will also be performances. Those who are not busy can stay to watch. I've arranged front row seats for you. This again received a round of applause. The banquet ended swiftly, with helpers clearing the guests' tables. As for the residents, who were formerly referred to as vagrants, 2 people from each table were designated to take the dishes to a designated area, while another 2 lifted the tables away. And the rest swept the floor and arranged the chairs for the performance. Everything was orderly and proceeded quickly. About 15 minutes later, the venue was set up. And the guests, along with the senior management of the Great Tang Technology Group, naturally sat in the first few rows, leaving one seat empty in the middle for Zhang Xiaochuan. At this moment, Zhang Xiaochuan was backstage checking the preparations and spotted 2 large men among a group of beautiful women. Just as he was about to approach them, Yao Yao ran over. "Young lord, you're here." Zhang Xiaochuan gently stroked Yao Yao's hair and said affectionately, "You've worked hard coming over to help with the performance. You haven't eaten yet, have you?" Yao Yao shyly swatted Zhang Xiaochuan's hand. "There are so many people watching. Sister Su arranged a working meal for us at noon, and it was quite plentiful. By the way, I wanted to ask you about something. Those 2 drunkards are causing trouble inside with your VIP badge." The VIP badge was a special token made by Zhang Xiaochuan, a palm-sized glass plate with a large character for guest printed on it, and on the back, there were 3 small words meaning as if returning home. In the lower right corner, there was Zhang Xiaochuan's fingerprint printed in gold foil along with a serial number. Zhang Xiaochuan took a look and realized this was the same one he had given to Li Bai. It turned out one of the 2 men in front of him was Li Bai. He said, "The sign is from me. Let me take a look." As he stepped closer, he confirmed it was indeed Li Bai. Zhang Xiaochuan greeted him. "Brotherly, when did you arrive? Have you eaten yet?" Li Bai, upon recognizing Zhang Xiaochuan, replied, "Dear brother, I'm a bit busy right now. I'll find you later." Without turning his head, he went back to his tasks, seemingly coordinating with the flower tower for a performance. However, leaving the host neglected like that showed a complete lack of social awareness. It was true that half of a genius is indeed mad. I was mistaken, as Li Bai turned back with a somewhat flattering expression. Seemingly realizing my presence as the host, Zhang Xiaochuan straightened his back, eager to hear how Li Bai would be polite, but the next moment, he nearly strained his back. Li Bai said, "Dear brother, send someone for some wine. Your servant is quite unappreciative and hesitated to get some. Is that sign you gave me even useful?" Though I knew he was a poet, I still felt like strangling him. That unappreciative servant was the lady of the house. "But since you are a transcendent, and I am a minor celestial master, we are both from the same hometown, so I let it slide." I replied with a dark expression, "All right. I will have someone bring it right away." Meanwhile, the man beside me had some social awareness, though probably not much. Otherwise, he wouldn't be following Li Bai's antics without even greeting the host. He spoke up. "I am Deng Qiusheng. Pleased to meet you, young lord." Oh, a notable figure. A professional alchemist. I wondered how his talent for researching gunpowder was. If he was skilled, I might recruit him. Zhang Xiaochuan saluted. "I am Zhang Xiaochuan. Greetings. Brother Li is here studying song and dance. I am terribly bored. Would it be possible for the young lord to show me around this place?" "That can be arranged. But the performance is about to start. I'll find a seat for you, and we can tour after the show." "That works. Please." Zhang Xiaochuan returned to the audience, where the backstage was already prepared. At that moment, 2 beautiful women walked to the center of the stage, one wearing a red suit with gold trim and high heels, the other in a green cheongsam with gold trim and high heels. Their curvaceous figures were accentuated perfectly, causing quite a stir among the officials, merchants, and common folks below. "Isn't that's Yang Shui? Oh, and the other is Chiu Yu. Beautiful, simply stunning. I must visit the flower tower tonight." "What are you talking about? The flower tower has been closed for a long time. The Zhang family has taken it over." Sigh, the minor celestial master knows how to have fun. "It's visible but untouchable. It feels like a cat is scratching my heart. I just wonder if the flower tower will open after the performance. Hopefully. First, let us watch the show." As for the crowd of farmers, the men were too shy to look, but their eyes couldn't turn away. The visual impact was overwhelming. The women scolded the show for being immoral, yet secretly fantasized about how many men they could enchant if they wore such outfits. While the audience had their varied thoughts, the 2 women had already reached the center of the stage. There stood 2 slender pillars over a meter tall, the upper parts of which could be raised or lowered, capped with a spherical object wrapped in wire mesh. This was the freshly made microphone. Xiang Shui stepped forward to adjust the height, then gently tapped her hand, and the large black boxes on both sides of the stage immediately emitted a thumping sound. Chapter 103. The Grand Tang Song and Dance Gala. When the sudden thumping sound echoed around, the audience looked puzzled, wondering where the sound was coming from. At this moment, the voice on stage continued. "Xiang Shui, joyful songs bring good fortune. Chiu Yu, energetic dances open the gates to happiness. Esteemed leaders and guests, dear fellow villagers, good afternoon. Everyone, today we gather together to extend our blessings for the relocation of the owner of Qingcheng County's Nana Mansion. Let's also celebrate the joyful relocation of the homeowners of our happy community. Now, please enjoy the first performance of today, Good Days," as the audience was still bewildered by the sounds coming from all directions. The 2 beautiful performers had already bowed and left the stage. What had they performed that made them leave so quickly? The audience was truly confused. At that moment, the music began, and Hua Qingwu appeared wearing a European-style, floor-length dress that accentuated her slim waist, with a fist-sized pink floral decoration at her chest contrasting against her fair skin, making her stand out. A group of beautiful women quickly followed, dressed in fitted long bell-bottom pants and colorful floral shirts, tying the hems at their waists to highlight their slender figures. These women appeared to have particularly prominent busts, thanks to the first bra designed by Zhang Xiaochuan. The older men in the audience couldn't help but drool, and at that moment, someone recognized Hua Qingwu. Isn't that the famous courtesan Hua Lu? Wow, she's stunning. I have an urge to spend a romantic evening with her. Get lost, she's mine. Amid the discussions, Hua Qingwu began to sing. Although the lyrics and melody were quite novel, they carried a celebratory tone that was pleasant to the ears and generally acceptable to the audience. However, as the second song began, it gradually went off track. With Xiang Shue's announcement, the music started. The unprecedented 360-degree surround sound system provided an audio experience comparable to a concert, complemented by sexy and lively dancers, creating an electrifying atmosphere. The villagers found it enjoyable, but the officials, especially some older ones, initially felt the first song was bearable due to its folk themes. The second song, however, was unbearable. If it weren't for Zhang's status, they would have sworn at it and left. Now, they could only endure and listen. On stage, one of the four famed courtesans of Hua Lu, Lian Hua, sang, "Summer, summer quietly passes, leaving a little secret, buried deep in my heart, I cannot tell you." This was a classic sweet song from the 1980s titled Pink Memories, describing a girl's secret crush. An old scholar-like official could no longer hold back, muttering softly, "Alas. Such vulgarity, so coarse." Little did he know, the sound system was too good, and as the catchy lyrics started to flow, someone in the audience began to hum along. "Summer, summer." The previously grumbling scholar found himself unknowingly immersed in the melody and began to hum along as well. By the time I realized what was happening, I had already sung along for a short while, and I felt my face flush with embarrassment. Glancing around nervously, I noticed everyone was seriously watching the performance, which helped me calm down. For the third song, Norwegian Wood, since there were no male singers in the venue, a singer with a more neutral voice, Xiang Shui, was arranged to perform. Zhang Xiaochuan thought it might not be as good. To his surprise, the one who took the stage was Li Bai. Dressed in a black suit with a white shirt underneath, he strode confidently onto the stage. Li Bai's tall figure perfectly suited the suit, and his elegant, gentlemanly demeanor also exuded a hint of heroism, completely different from his usual carefree, drunkard image. I wondered how many hearts he would capture with this appearance. Zhang Xiaochuan was curious about how Li Bai managed to persuade Hua Jie to let him perform in such a short time. He suspected Li Bai had some tricks up his sleeve and decided to wait and see. As the music started, Li Bai sang along, "Let me take your heart and try to melt it slowly." The moment he opened his mouth, Zhang Xiaochuan was blown away. This was simply rock god-level performance. Perhaps they should interrogate Li Bai, as he might have come from another era. He decided to wait until the performance was over to confirm with Li Bai, as he wanted to enjoy the show. After all, he hadn't seen a live performance like this often, with his only previous experience being at a company annual meeting from the back row. Watching a group of beautiful women dancing on stage up close was an exhilarating experience, stirring his blood. Li Bai indeed had musical talent, delivering the song with great passion, which inspired the audience to sing along louder than before, creating a gradually heated atmosphere. After Norwegian Wood, the entire performance shifted into concert mode, with the audience becoming increasingly immersed in the music. At that moment, the music transcended, allowing everyone to express and release their emotions through singing, forgetting the meaning of the lyrics and simply getting lost in the moment. The performance transitioned from Pink Memories to Norwegian Wood, from Forgetfulness Water to Sweet Honey, and from The Brave One to Peach Blossoms Blooming. Each song was catchy, easy to sing along to after just one listen, which kept everyone excited. The final song, the most dazzling national style, pushed the entire performance to a climax. By the time the second part of the lyrics came around, the audience was singing along loudly, prompting Zhang Xiaochuan to rush backstage and instruct the music not to stop. As a result, the 4-minute song was sung for half an hour, with most of it being sung by the audience. No one remembered how the event ended, but many years later, they still recalled that massive sing-along. After the performance, Zhang Xiaochuan went to find Li Bai, but he had already vanished, reportedly having left with the people from the venue. Sigh. It seemed the genius acted with such carefree abandon, making it clear he had come looking for someone. After their brief encounter, he left without even exchanging pleasantries. Fortunately, Dan Xiaoxing had stayed to watch the performance and didn't leave with Li Bai. He might also be a chemistry genius, so Zhang Xiaochuan asked Mo Tianji to entertain him. If he truly was a genius, they needed to find a way to keep him around. As for Li Bai, Zhang Xiaochuan would have to wait until he finished dealing with the current matters before seeking him out, as there were already people lining up to see him. The third floor of the office building, the president's office. The young master is present. Please allow me to pay my respects. Oh, I say, Governor Zhou. Even if we had some unpleasantness in the past, there's no need to belittle me. Zhou Pengyan said anxiously. I wouldn't dare. Ever since the incident with the Huang family, I have been astonished by the deeds of the young master, and I sincerely admire you. Zhang Xiaochuan did not expect that his image as a celestial disciple would be so firmly established now. It seems I misunderstood Governor Zhou. But I also mentioned that it's inappropriate to call me young master again. Alright then, I shall bravely call you Erlang, and hope for your understanding. Chapter 104. Asphalt Mine. Although I can't say I have any significant grievances with Zhou Pengyan, we also don't have much of a relationship. So I got straight to the point. I wonder why Governor Zhou specifically stayed behind to look for me. Zhou Pengyan also did not beat around the bush, and said, my term has been completed for 3 years, and the transfer order has arrived. I will soon be heading to a certain state for my new post. Sigh. Ancient people really have a way of speaking in circles. I don't see how the end of a term has anything to do with me. However, after half a year, Zhang Xiaochuan had already gotten used to roundabout conversations, so he patiently listened to Zhou Pingyan continue. Originally, due to the incident with the Huang family, I owe Erling an apology. It's nothing, I didn't take it to heart. Zhou Pingyan suddenly lowered his voice and said, in fact, I have something to tell you. Seeing Zhou Pingyan's cautious demeanor, I guess the matter was quite sensitive, so I leaned in a bit closer. Please go on. Erling, do you know that your glass has caught someone's attention? Zhang Xiaochuan almost blurted out, get to the point. But then he thought, this must be someone significant eyeing it. Otherwise, Zhou Pingyan wouldn't be so serious. Reluctantly, he replied, please enlighten me, Governor. It is the most powerful figure in the court. Zhang Xiaochuan knew that this glass would certainly attract the attention of important people, but he didn't expect it to be someone so significant so soon. This most powerful figure in the court, Zhang Xiaochuan knew, was the infamous Minister Li Linfu. Besides developing technology, Zhang Xiaochuan had also kept an eye on major court affairs. If it's Li Linfu, then things are indeed serious. He is notoriously cunning and is often referred to as the most devious person of the dynasty. Not only is he ruthless, but he is also exceptionally patient, often achieving his goals without causing a stir. During the reign of Emperor Xuanzong of Tang, Li Longji, for the first 25 years, saw several chancellors come and go, but for the last 20 years, Li Linfu held the position for 19 years, while Yang Guozhong was in office for just 1 year before the Engshi rebellion led to his demise. This illustrates how difficult Emperor Li Longji was to serve. Yet Li Linfu managed to hold the chancellorship for 19 years with immense power, showcasing his strength. Zhang Xiaochuan expressed his gratitude to Zhou Pingyan. Thank you for informing me, Governor. Otherwise, I would have been unaware of the impending disaster. Erlang is exaggerating. It's not as terrifying as it seems. Considering that this most powerful figure won't last long. This left Zhang Xiaochuan somewhat puzzled. Historically, Li Linfu did not lose his position as chancellor. Could history have changed? So he asked, why do you say that, Governor? Li is doing well. Why wouldn't he last long? Is there some rumor? There hasn't been a chief minister for more than 3 years since the sage ascended to the throne. Hearing Zhou Pingyan say this, Zhang Xiaochuan understood that it was Zhou's own speculation. Previous chief ministers had all been removed after 3 years to prevent excessive power consolidation. It seems Zhou Pingyan was sharing this with him because the current minister was about to step down. Who would have thought that it would change with Li Linfu? Oh, I have heard some rumors, but surely the governor wouldn't tell me such a significant secret for no reason. In fact, there are 2 reasons. First, I originally assisted the Huang and Liao families in obtaining the Erlang formula but failed, with no hope of promotion. Unexpectedly, circumstances turned around in the last 6 months thanks to various actions taken by Erlang, allowing me to achieve some commendable results. Therefore, feeling grateful, I wanted to befriend Erlang. The governor's words are too polite. We are already friends, and I should congratulate you on your promotion. Zhou Pingyan waved his hand. There hasn't been a promotion, just a minor elevation in rank, nothing more. Even so, congratulations are in order. I wonder what I did to help the governor achieve merit. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's sincere expression, as if he genuinely didn't know, Zhou Pingyan explained, there are 3 matters in total. First, I relocated 3,000 displaced people, which was commendable. Second, many farms raised a large number of poultry and livestock, allowing the local government to sell off-stored grain at good prices, which was also meritorious. Third, the sale of glass in Suzhou increased tax revenues due to tariffs on exports. Indeed, all 3 matters were related to me, and I didn't expect the government to benefit from them. Zhang Xiaochuan said, if that is the case, then they are indeed related to me. But I'm not very familiar with the grain storage system, so I asked the governor to explain further. Zhou Pingyan patiently explained. The grain storage system is used to stabilize grain prices and provide relief to disaster victims. During years of plenty, when grain prices are low, the government spends money to buy grain to stockpile. In times of disaster when people are without food, grain prices rise, so the government sells grain at low prices. And in severe droughts, it is also used for disaster relief. Zhang Xiaochuan later learned that this grain storage policy has been continuously implemented, known in modern times as the grain protection price. The fact that the policy has endured indicates it works, but why is it that during the Tang dynasty, many displaced people fled during disaster years? According to the governor, recent years have been favorable with good weather, so the granaries should be full. Yet there are still tens of thousands of displaced people. When Zhang Xiaochuan asked this, Zhou Pingyan was slightly surprised. It seemed that even someone capable of achieving remarkable things could be blind to common knowledge in the bureaucratic world. He replied, these are actually the accumulated issues within the bureaucracy. Although the method of stabilizing grain prices is good, the first to benefit from the policy are the wealthy gentry, and by the time the common people are supposed to benefit, the government has already lost the ability to assist them. Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly realized this. It turns out ordinary people do not enjoy any of the policy benefits. Unwilling to give up, he asked, but can't the grain storage also be used for disaster relief? Erlang, have you heard the saying, help in emergencies, not in poverty? The government can provide porridge to the people for a few days during a crisis, but cannot do so year-round. Especially since the people will still owe taxes the following year. Zhang Xiaochuan fully understood now. When the people suffer from disasters, the government's inadequate relief is a fault. If they fail to pay taxes the following year, that too is a fault. However, if the common people flee, it's all over. They just report some data. These troublesome people can't blame local officials for not doing their jobs well, and the higher authorities won't investigate further. The land left behind by the fleeing populace can be symbolically bought by wealthy gentry, and the ownership of the land changes hands. Thus, the gentry benefit while the officials are exempt from responsibility. The common people lose their land, and the state loses tax revenue, as most wealthy individuals have tax exemptions. This cycle continues, leaving the common people without livelihoods, leading to a financial collapse of the government, and sparking a new round of rebellion and wealth redistribution. Of course, none of this can be managed by oneself. Zhang Xiaochuan set aside his wild thoughts and said, "Thank you for clarifying. But this alone is not enough for you to share such a significant secret with me." Indeed. At this point, Zhou Pingyan paused for a moment, feeling a bit embarrassed, and continued, "Isn't there a second point? If I want to be promoted in 3 years, I need to achieve some results in my new position. This is why I see various clever strategies from you before I leave." "I see, but I don't know what to do at the moment." Earlier, Governor Zhou mentioned taking office in a certain region, but I'm not sure what is special about that place. Zhou Pingyan thought for a moment and said, "I know a bit about this. It is said that there are many charred, stone-like substances at Jianmen Pass in that region. I wonder if that counts as special." Zhang Xiaochuan pondered for a moment and suddenly looked up, saying, "Asphalt mine." Chapter 105. A startling revelation. Zhang Xiaochuan remembered that in later times, there was a very large natural asphalt mine in that area. Originally, due to the underdevelopment of oil refining, there was no large-scale asphalt available for road construction, which was a concern. This was a timely opportunity. Although cement roads are good, they lack flexibility, and without tires, traveling on them can be quite hard. Over time, they can easily deteriorate. However, with asphalt from the mine, the roads would be different, durable, and smooth. Zhou Pengyan repeated after Zhang Xiaochuan, "Asphalt mine? What is asphalt? And what can it do?" Asphalt is a great material. It can be used for paving roads. The roads paved with it are fast to construct, cost-effective, and strong. When the mine is operational, it will fill the treasury, and asphalt can be used for road construction, which would both be significant achievements. Upon hearing this, Zhou Pingyan quickly asked, "But how do we specifically go about it?" Zhang Xiaochuan thought for a moment and said, "Governor Zhou, you can take office first. After the new year, I will arrange for someone to assist you in mining and road construction in that region." Zhou Pingyan was a straightforward person. Understanding that Zhang Xiaochuan was busy, so he prepared to take his leave. He said, "Thank you very much. My purpose for this trip has been achieved, and I will return to await good news." Zhang Xiaochuan stopped Zhou Pingyan, although he had given Zhou some guidance. The latter had shared such a significant secret that it felt like saving his life. Historically, once someone like Li Linfu set their sights on a person, that person would meet a grim fate. If Zhou Pingyan hadn't informed him in advance, he would have been caught unaware by Li Linfu's schemes. Therefore, he needed to express his gratitude properly. Zhang Xiaochuan had a cart of goods prepared for Zhou Pingyan to take back. Although these items had low costs, they held high market value. Zhang Xiaochuan humbly referred to them as local specialties, urging Zhou Pingyan not to be dismissive. Zhou Pingyan returned and was astonished. This was quite extravagant. He wondered how this could be called a local specialty. Inside, there were glassware, tea leaves, and even a glass mirror that could reflect every detail of a person. It felt like the gift was too generous, and he praised Zhang Xiaochuan for his generosity, thinking he was worth getting to know better. After seeing Zhou Pingyan off, he met with others like Shirtai and Lei Shan. Before they knew it, night had fallen, and the office building lit up. People downstairs were still busy. This is how events go. Even hours after everything ended, the cleanup work was still ongoing. Zhang Xiaochuan went downstairs to find something to eat and overheard the workers discussing the wonders of the new lights. The introduction of such a transformative technology as electric lighting sparked inevitable discussions, although they were currently only using incandescent bulbs, which would have to do for now. However, for the sake of eye health, it was better to get LED lights up and running soon, as incandescent bulbs flickered, which is hard to notice with the naked eye but can be harmful to vision. After finishing his meal downstairs, Zhang Xiaochuan returned, feeling gratified as he looked at the dim yellow glow of the streetlights. Finally, there were lights. He no longer had to fearfully navigate his way back to his place in the dark, which was a great relief for someone who was afraid of darkness. Arriving at the villa's entrance, he pressed the switch beside the door, and the lights inside turned on. In his previous life, when he was a child, his home only had incandescent bulbs with a single pull switch. He had to step into a pitch-black room to turn on the light, and those few seconds spent searching for the switch felt agonizingly long. For a long time, turning on the light was a torment for Zhang Xiaochuan. Thus, this building needed to be designed with multiple switches, allowing him to turn on the lights before entering. Delighted to see the lights come on, he stepped into the room. However, as soon as he reached the middle of the room, the lights went out, plunging the space into darkness. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly ran back outside. How could the newly installed lights be malfunctioning? He had been busy helping with the event today, and both Yaoer and the other two had not been around. He felt too scared to be alone in the dark, especially since he didn't even have a candle. Zhang Xiaochuan tried the switch again at the door, and to his surprise, the lights came back on. It seemed there was a poor connection. He stepped back into the room, but as he reached the middle, the lights went out again. He hurriedly ran outside and turned on the porch light, leaning against the wall, puzzled. How strange. He had just moved in, and it was already acting up. Feeling a bit anxious, he wondered what to do. Should he admit to being scared and call someone for support? That would be too embarrassing. Although everyone in the village knew he was afraid of the dark, he still felt too shy to ask for help. While Zhang Xiaochuan was lost in thought, he glanced back inside and was suddenly terrified. At some point, the lights had gone out again, and in the darkness, a face was slowly emerging, colliding right with Zhang Xiaochuan's gaze. Startled, he shouted, "A ghost! Ah!" and swung his fist at the face that had appeared, causing the figure to let out a scream. Ah! Then he saw the figure cover its face with its hands, looking utterly pained. Upon contact, Zhang Xiaochuan felt it must be a person, likely playing a prank, so he turned the lights back on and kicked at the figure again. The kick was obviously delivered with force, and after being hit, that guy seemed to recover a bit, covering his face with one hand and looking up at Zhang Xiaochuan. "Why are you hitting me?" Zhang Xiaochuan looked and realized. Oh, isn't this the little brother-in-law of the big guy Chao Wei? Earlier, he was scared half to death. But now he said angrily, "Hitting you is too light. I actually want to take you down. What are you doing running to my house in the middle of the night?" Chao Wei, covering his already swollen face, said aggrievedly, "I came to visit you. But you were so busy that I had to wait at your house." "Well, it's not that you waited for me, but why did you turn off my lights? Also, why didn't I see you when I went in earlier?" Chao Wei scratched his head and said awkwardly, "I've seen your house before, so I just looked around. Then I saw your bed was big and bright, felt really comfortable, so I tried it out and accidentally fell asleep. But what does that have to do with you turning off my lights? The young lady Yaoer brought me here and told me that was the light switch. Even demonstrated it, saying that if it got dark while waiting, I should turn on the light." Zhang Xiaochuan urged impatiently, "Get to the point." Chao Wei looked like he had eaten something unpleasant. "You're so impatient." I continued, "I was sleeping on the second floor when the light suddenly turned on. I thought you had come back, but after a while, when I didn't see anyone, I thought the light turned on by itself. Since the light was too bright, I got up to turn it off and went back to sleep." Zhang Xiaochuan understood that Chao Wei didn't realize the downstairs lights could be turned on from upstairs. Didn't he know the light wouldn't turn on by itself, and didn't he know he had accidentally turned off the downstairs light too? So, thinking no one was around, he turned off the light and went back to sleep, repeating this until the third time when he remembered to check downstairs, resulting in Zhang Xiaochuan's punch. It seemed that Chao Wei wasn't at fault, but it was still frustrating. He had thought the light would be on, bright enough not to scare him at night. Yet this was only the second day, and he was already scared half to death. Forget it, he couldn't tell Chao Wei about this. He didn't want to be laughed at. So Zhang Xiaochuan said, "Alright, I get it. But this was purely an accident, my apologies. Do you need me to find a doctor for you?" Chao Wei wanted to save face, but given Zhang Xiaochuan's current temperament, it would be difficult. So he could only accept it. He mumbled, "No need, it's not a serious injury. Then let us go inside and talk." After being too tense earlier, they had been talking at the door for quite a while. Once they were seated in the room, Zhang Xiaochuan spoke first, "So tell me, after making me wait so long, is there something important?" Chapter 106, The Bamboo, while Weve struck brine. Weve struck brine. Weve struck brine. At a dilapidated salt well in Sichuan Rongzhou, a brand new bamboo frame had been built. A craftsman raised his ladle and shouted, and with his shout, others followed suit, each voice louder and more joyful than the last. Weve struck brine. This shout came from the head of the Chao family, and one could hear the relief in his voice. At the same time, he felt deeply moved. Although he knew when he first saw the blueprint that this bamboo well could be successful, how could such exquisite technology be provided to him by the Zhang family boy? With this technology, it is easy to dig wells for salt production, yet it was presented so casually? It's not worth it for a woman, even if she is his own daughter. The head of the Chao family always suspected there was something amiss. And only when the brine was finally produced did he breathe a sigh of relief, though he still found it hard to believe. As preparations were made to create drilling tools and start the drilling process, a deeper understanding of this technology revealed its intricacies. First, let's talk about costs. A typical salt well usually requires an investment of around 5,000 in currency to reach depths of 30 to 50 meters. To ensure the well's stability, deep wells use high-quality wood to reinforce the walls, with better wood used for deeper wells, sometimes even using rare types of wood, reflecting the high costs involved. Moreover, the deeper you go, the greater the investment. Digging just one more meter can cost thousands, even tens of thousands. Only government salt wells dare to dig so deep, as ordinary merchants lack the financial resources and courage to take such risks. If no brine is found, it results in a total loss. However, the technology plan provided by Zhang Xiaochuan only requires tens of currency for initial material preparation, and the cost of drilling 1 meter is less than 1 currency, only needing a few bamboo poles and some iron drill bits. The cumulative cost for deeper drilling is also quite limited. Currently, this salt well has been deepened by 70 meters from the original dry well, with a total investment of just over 200 currency. Don't underestimate 200 currency. As mentioned earlier, based on later purchasing power, it could equate to over 1 million. Now, regarding speed, previously, a shallow well with a larger diameter took around 6 months to a year to reach 30 meters, and the deeper one drilled, the longer it took. Digging 100 meters would take at least 8 to 10 years. However, this well reached 100 meters in just 3 to 4 months. And that was only due to initial inexperience with the technology. In the future, the time could be further reduced. With this technology, it's like having an endless supply of salt wells. While the head of the Chao family was still contemplating, Chao Wei interrupted his thoughts. "Oh, the well is drilled quickly, but with such a narrow opening, how slow will the brine flow out?" The head of the Chow family smiled without explaining, instead directing a craftsman to step aside so that Chow Wei could operate the winch and he himself could draw the brine. The bamboo tube was quite long, about 2 meters, with an opening at the bottom equipped with a hinge. The bamboo tube was hoisted high, once lowered into the well. The weight would cause it to sink, and the hinge would open upon striking the water's surface. Once filled, it would close automatically when pulled up. As Chow Wei turned the winch, brine was pulled up from the well, then dragged to the side into a water channel leading to the salt pond. Releasing the hinge, the brine flowed automatically into the channel. After Chow Wei brought up the brine, the head of the Chow family asked with a hint of meaning, "How is it?" "This winch is lightweight and fast," Chow Wei replied. "Although the amount drawn at one time is less than half of what it used to be. The speed is at least 3 times faster than before, and it's very labor efficient. Just 2 people can continuously draw brine." The head of the Chow family looked at his chubby son with satisfaction. Although this boy indulged in food, he had not lost the ability that supported the family's livelihood. "Wayer, you are right, but you forgot one thing. Since we can drill wells so quickly, we can also drill additional salt wells near this one. We could potentially have at least 10 wells extracting brine simultaneously. Just imagine what that scene would look like." Chow Wei hesitated for a moment. Although he could sense a lot, because the mathematical foundation of ancient people was indeed lacking. While he was mentally calculating the amount, the head of the Chow family had already spoken up. That was a full 15 times the amount of salt harvested, and with such a strong brine output. I felt the reserves were substantial. Just the wells in this one location could yield as much in a year as our income for the past 15 years. And we could continue to open salt wells elsewhere, even 10 or 100 more, the head of the Chow family said boldly. Chow Wei excitedly chimed in. "Then our family will be as rich as a nation? That foolish Zhang Xiaochuan just handed us this immense fortune?" The head of the Chow family shot a glare at his son and said, "What are you saying? You need to show some respect to the Zhang family in the future." Chow Wei quickly agreed. The head of the Chow family continued. "This is also where my doubts lie. When I met that kid last time, I realized that rumors are unreliable. He is far from a fool. He is clearly a genius, but I don't know why he hides his talents so deeply. Anyway, we must never offend the Zhang family again." After a moment's thought, he added, "Also remember, if virtue does not match position, disaster will come. If a person does not deserve wealth, they will lose it. It is not wise to expand too quickly at the moment. We should first manage this well and look for powerful connections in the future to grow." "What about the well diggers today?" Chow Wei's face showed a fierce expression. "No need to worry, they are loyal to our Chow family. We must be cautious with the salt wells for now," the head of the Chow family said, as if he thought of something else. "Go visit the Zhang family again and bring some substantial gifts." After listening to Chow Wei's account, Zhang Xiaochuan understood the situation and said, "So you specifically came to deliver gifts today?" Chow Wei replied, "Exactly." As he spoke, he took out a list of gifts, which were naturally sent to the storeroom. Zhang Xiaochuan glanced at the list. There were quite a few items, mostly gold, silver, and jewels, but he wasn't particularly interested in those. However, the last item moved Zhang Xiaochuan. It stated that in the future, 1/10 of the profits would be given to the Zhang family, rather than to Zhang Xiaochuan himself. The Chow family clearly had a clever tactic, as the matriarch of the Zhang family was his daughter. So giving to the Zhang family also meant giving to his own daughter. Nevertheless, offering 1/10 of the profits showed that the Chow family was sincere, so he asked, "According to what you said, the bamboo tube well is now established. How much is the output?" Chow Wei proudly replied, "With the current well, it can produce 500 shi per year. If we drill a few more wells, the output can increase. With this new drilling method, we expect to reach an annual output of 3,000 shi in the second half of the year." Seeing Chow Wei's expression, Zhang Xiaochuan thought it must be a considerable amount, did a quick calculation, and suddenly exclaimed, 3,000 shi is 450,000 jin, over 200 tons. Chapter 107. The output seems a bit low. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's shocked expression, Chow Wei, ignoring the over 200 tons part, cheerfully said, "How about that? Surprised, right? I didn't expect such a high yield at first either. If this continues, the output could double in another year." Once Chow Wei finished speaking, Zhang Xiaochuan finally snapped out of his shock, and a single remark left Chow Wei feeling a bit down. "Doubling would only yield 6,000 stones. That's too little, right?" Chow Wei argued. "No, 6,000 stones is still not enough. Do you know how much salt the entire Rongzhou, or rather the whole Sichuan, produces in a year?" "I really don't know, but does it matter?" At first, Chow Wei was a bit reserved when talking to Zhang Xiaochuan, but as they conversed more, he gradually became more familiar and said bluntly, "What does it matter? Last year, the entire Sichuan produced only 50,000 stones. And our Chow family produced less than 1,000 stones. That really is little. No wonder people are selling their daughters to break salt wells." Chow Wei felt a heaviness in his chest. If it were his father, he would probably have fainted from anger. "Do you understand or not? If we increase our investment in drilling for salt, we could produce 10,000 stones a year in less than 3 years and hold a crucial position in the salt market of Shu." Zhang Xiaochuan thought for a moment, then became serious, showing no sign of joking. "I understand what you mean. You're just stating that the overall salt production in Jiannan is low, nothing more. Moreover, if I recall correctly, Jiannan's salt production accounts for 30% of the entire Tang dynasty." Chow Wei thought to himself, "You're impressive." Looking down on the salt production of Jiannan and now eyeing the entire Tang dynasty's salt. But he didn't dare to say it out loud. "Yes." Jian Nan accounts for 30% of the Tang dynasty's salt. Zhang Xiaochuan silently calculated in his mind, and after a few minutes, he suddenly sighed deeply. The current salt production is too low. No wonder the common people can't afford salt. If the entire Tang dynasty's salt production were distributed per capita, each person wouldn't even get a pound of salt a year. He continued, half inquiring and half to himself. I still need to develop the chemical industry. Where am I going to get several tens of thousands of tons of salt this year? How much is several tens of thousands of tons? About a little over 100,000 stones. Oh, a little over 100,000 stones. Chao Wei suddenly jumped up. How much did you say? 100,000 stones and a little more? You mean we need several 100,000 stones of salt a year? Zhang Xiaochuan said, yes. It seems we still lack the technology. After the new year, I'll arrange for someone to upgrade the salt fields. We must increase the output. Chao Wei saw that Zhang Xiaochuan wasn't joking, and his heart raced uncontrollably. If this means at least exceeding 100,000 stones of annual output, maybe even 1,000,000 stones. Oh, I can't even imagine. Just thinking about it makes my heart skip a beat. He weakly asked, I wonder what Erlang thinks the output could reach. Zhang Xiaochuan wasn't particularly sure either. So he cautiously replied, I estimate it could be around 100,000 tons. How much is 100,000 tons? 130,000 stones. Thud. The sound of him collapsing. Hey Chao Wei, Fat Chao, what the heck? Why did you faint? Old Yin was pinching Chao Wei's acupoint, and Chao Qin looked puzzled. Asking Zhang Xiaochuan, what is going on? Why did he faint? Zhang Xiaochuan was also confused. He wanted to know how he fainted. He mimicked the tone of the moment and said, I just said 100, sob sob. It turned out that Chao Wei wasn't seriously unconscious. He had already woken up and just heard Zhang Xiaochuan mention the annual output, quickly jumping up to cover his mouth. First, he was afraid he would faint again after hearing it, and second, it was too embarrassing. He couldn't let Zhang Xiaochuan spill it. Zhang Xiaochuan struggled free from Chao Wei and pointed at him, asking, Fat Chao, did you not wash your hands after going to the bathroom? Why do you need to wash your hands after using the bathroom? Holy crap, the stench is absolutely confirmed. Ugh, I'm puking my guts out. By the time Zhang Xiaochuan recovered, Chao Wei had already dragged Chao Qin away. Old man Yin looked at Zhang Xiaochuan, silently asking if he needed a checkup. Zhang Xiaochuan waved his hand to signal he was fine, and old man Yin left too. At that moment, a towel was handed to Zhang Xiaochuan. He took it and wiped his face, then pretended to be upset. So you finally came back. Do you even know how much I've suffered? I need some comfort. His words came out of nowhere, leaving Yao completely baffled for a moment. While she was still trying to figure out what he meant, a large hand suddenly wrapped around Yao slender waist. Dressed in her sleek professional outfit, Yao looked incredibly alluring. Seizing any excuse he could find, Zhang Xiaochuan started getting playful. Yao gave a token struggle before snuggling into his arms and murmuring, You only know how to bully me. I'm not bullying you. I was genuinely scared. You know I'm afraid of the dark. But the lights are blazing bright right now. What is there to be scared of? You're lying. No, seriously. I'm not. Zhang Xiaochuan then recounted everything that had just happened, all while his hands roamed mischievously over her body. Yao listened intently, so absorbed that by the time she realized what was happening, Zhang Xiaochuan had already claimed his victory. She quickly grabbed his wandering hands and pleaded softly, No. Zhang Xiaochuan paused momentarily, then gently whispered to her, Then promise me this. As mistress of this house, you'll always wait here for me to come home. Don't leave me alone to face the darkness. Women are strange creatures. Telling them you need their protection hits harder than promising to protect them yourself. In that instant, Yao made up her mind. She would guard Zhang Xiaochuan with all her heart. Lost in thought, she instinctively nestled even deeper into his embrace. Murmuring shyly, Stop it, who said I'd be your mistress? Her adorable coyness drove Zhang Xiaochuan wild with desire. He scooped her up and rushed upstairs. The entire second floor was one massive bedroom, a 360-degree glass-walled panoramic suite. He laid Yao down on the custom-made bed, 2 meters wide by 3 meters long. Finally, he thought gleefully, my fancy mattress will get some use. Blushing deeply, Yao whispered, Please be gentle with me, my lord. Those words hit him like a thunderbolt. Like a starving wolf, Zhang Xiaochuan lunged forward, only to be firmly stopped by Yao pressing both palms against his chest. In a barely audible voice, she reminded him, The curtains, oh. Damn the curtains. Why did I ever think installing floor-to-ceiling glass walls was a good idea? Ugh, third curtain, still 9 more to go after their passionate encounter. Yao lay curled up in Zhang Xiaochuan's arms like a docile kitten. Will you always cherish me like this? She asked softly. Sai women always ask these kinds of questions. Of course, I'll love Yao forever. But what if I do something wrong? Will you still love me then? Never. Seeing Yao sit bolt upright in panic, Zhang Xiaochuan pulled her back into his arms and chuckled, Silly girl, whatever my Yao does is right. So you'll never need forgiveness. If at least you've got some sense. Listening to his sweet, shamelessly affectionate words, Yao drifted peacefully into sleep. Chapter 108. Out of money early the next morning, as soon as Zhang Xiaochuan stepped out, whether it was the guards in the village or the displaced people, everyone greeted him with utmost respect. Greetings, little celestial master. Zhang Xiaochuan smiled and nodded in response. Greetings, little celestial master. He continued to smile and nod. Greetings, little celestial master. He nodded again. In the past, while everyone was polite, they wouldn't actually talk to him out of reverence. Yesterday's ceremony where he was worshipped as a celestial master had broken that barrier, much like a romantic relationship breaking through an unspoken tension. Before that moment, they maintained their decorum, but once that barrier was broken, things became quite different. Now, everyone was extraordinarily enthusiastic upon seeing Zhang Xiaochuan. After making his rounds, his neck felt stiff from all the bowing, and Zhang Xiaochuan defined this madness as a side effect of being regarded as a celestial master. It was a problem that needed addressing. He sighed, realizing that he wouldn't be able to go anywhere today, so he decided to head straight home. He couldn't entirely blame everyone for their behavior. In the past, whenever Zhang Xiaochuan appeared, people were busy working and couldn't just stop to greet him. During the new year, he had taken an extended paid leave from the 24th of the 12th month to the 15th of the first month, a total of 21 days. Along with the lingering excitement from the celebrations, which explained their eagerness to greet him now. As soon as Zhang Xiaochuan returned home, his elder sister, Chao Qin, came looking for him. His sister-in-law rarely approached him, so he quickly asked, "Sister-in-law, is there something you need from me at this time?" Chao Qin entered the room and plopped down on the sofa, saying, "We're out of money, my big president." "Oh, that was expected. But why is it that we're out of money now?" Chao Qin was momentarily at a loss for words. Feeling frustrated that he knew they were out of money, yet continued to spend lavishly, she couldn't help but complain. "It seems you have some self-awareness about your extravagant spending." Zhang Xiaochuan, noticing her displeasure, chuckled and said, "I have a little idea, sister-in-law. Why don't you tell me about the accounts for this period? I'll see if we can increase income or cut back on expenses." Of course, this was just a formality. Cutting back was not an option, but increasing income was much easier. Anything they produced would be in high demand. If it weren't for the current focus on foundational work, they would have already launched a whole range of products. Chao Qin detailed the financial situation over the past 6 months. The main income came from glass sales, totaling over 500,000, followed by a 100,000 compensation from the Huang family, nearly 10,000 from iron pot sales, and close to 10,000 from MSG sales. The total income was 640,000. The expenditures were mainly divided into 3 categories. First, purchasing salt, iron, carbon, lime, and other ores cost 280,000. Second, various construction materials such as wood, tiles, bricks, and fabric amounted to 100,000. Surprisingly, the third category, labor wages and meal expenses, reached a staggering 200,000. The remaining miscellaneous expenses, including contracting the flour building, added several thousand, leaving the warehouse nearly empty. "I was wondering why we're out of money now. It seems we sold so much glass. Didn't we say to reduce the output?" Chao Qin explained. "This was a decision made together with Uncle Mo and Uncle Lei. Since we weren't worried about sales and money was tight, why not produce a bit more? However, I still took into account your instruction not to overproduce. Otherwise, we could have doubled our output. All right, you did the right thing on this matter. I seriously miscalculated the market. As for the production and sale of glass and mirrors next year, you can discuss and decide. Just let me know the result." Chao Qin noticed that Zhang Xiaochuan was receptive to suggestions and was lowering his stance, so her tone softened. "It was indeed inconsiderate not to inform you in advance. But you can't just ignore these matters. After all, the group is yours. You're being too modest. I think this is great. From now on, you can take charge of product production and operations, and I will focus on research and development. I've made my decision. You will be the vice president from now on." Chao Qin's mouth dropped open. "What? You're giving me the title of vice president just like that? Shouldn't you think it over?" Originally, Zhang Xiaochuan thought there might be some complaints about the glass expansion, but unexpectedly, there was strong support. "No need, this is good. It will just be hard work for you." Zhang Xiaochuan simply called all the senior management for a meeting. It didn't take long for everyone to arrive. And since Li Huajiang was the director, he was also given a villa. Once everyone was gathered, Zhang Xiaochuan skipped the small talk and directly laid out the plans for the coming year. First, for the construction department. He planned to build a large-scale monosodium glutamate production factory, as Zhang Xiaochuan was preparing to sell it in bulk. Second, he aimed to establish an asphalt mining site in Jianzhou, paving roads from Jianzhou to Yizhou, Shuzhou, and Yaoshu. The route from Jianzhou to Shuzhou was obviously for transporting asphalt, while the road to Yizhou was for facilitating goods exports, and to Yaoshu, which is now known as Panzihua, was naturally for steel production. Third, he planned to establish a salt field in Rongzhou, which is the main production area for well salt in Jianan Road. Fourth, he intended to build a paper mill, preparing to sell paper and print books, and also set up a school within the industrial park. Fifth, he aimed to establish schools. Next was the personnel department, which needed to expand the workforce in the industrial park. Zhang Xiaochuan had a couple of ideas. First, to purchase a large number of slaves. Second, to allow settled refugees to return home in batches for family visits and bring back lost relatives. It would be even better if they could connect with some people. The administrative department would naturally coordinate with other departments to ensure everything was in place for food and accommodation. The finance department would be backed by the vice president, ensuring proper accounting, while also announcing the promotion of the vice president. Lastly, for the research and development department, Zhang Xiaochuan simply provided a checklist. After outlining the plan, everyone contributed questions and areas for discussion, eventually reaching a consensus. Once the crowd dispersed, Zhang Xiaochuan kept Mo Tianji behind. "Uncle Mo, look at this." Zhang Xiaochuan pulled out a stack of blueprints from his pocket, and Mo Tianji quickly took them, and upon seeing them, was astonished. Mo Tianji stuttered. This, This is the blueprint for flying equipment. Yes. Amazing. It actually utilizes the rotation of blades to overcome air resistance and achieve liftoff. Zhang Xiaochuan provided the blueprints for a helicopter. Moreover, the materials for creating the aircraft shell have also been developed. As he spoke, Zhang Xiaochuan took out a piece of dark, flat material, which at first glance resembled a patch. Mo Tianji quickly grabbed it, astonished. It's so light. He squeezed it with his hand. It was particularly hard, definitely not inferior to a similarly thick patch, and even stronger. If this is to be used for making armor, what is the point? With firearms now available, armor has lost its significance, so I'll drop that idea. What material is this? How can it be so light and so hard? This is called carbon fiber, which is the preferred material for making flying machines, specifically aircraft. Flying machines, airplanes, great name. Great material. I'm going to start the production right now. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly pulled back Mo Tianji, who was about to turn and leave. Wait a moment. I haven't finished. The core of this aircraft is the engine, and we haven't developed the engine yet. Ah, the engine? Yes. So you need to get the engine sorted out first. As he spoke, Zhang Xiaochuan took out a stack of blueprints. Mo Tianji, not one to hesitate, took the engine blueprints and left, clearly busy with the production. It's already the new year, and he's giving these tasks to Mo Tianji. It seems he'll be spending the holiday in the parts processing factory. Originally, they planned to resume work after the Lantern Festival. But Chao Qin brought up the lack of funds in the meeting and suggested starting production earlier, on the third day of the new year. Upon asking the opinions of other senior executives, they all agreed. So Zhang Xiaochuan consented, but insisted on paying double wages and that overtime must be voluntary. Zhang Xiaochuan knew that this voluntary overtime was just a formality for those struggling to make ends meet, who could refuse double wages. Seeing everyone working tirelessly, he could only shake his head helplessly, estimating that in a few years, their enthusiasm would wane. Anyway, I'm going to enjoy my holiday. After the meeting, Zhang Xiaochuan planned to take Yao to Baital Lake for some quality time. Did you forget something? Yao asked, looking at Zhang Xiaochuan with a puzzled expression. A woman asking this question means he better think carefully before answering. What exactly did he forget? Was it that he hadn't formally wed her yet? They agreed to do that after the new year. Or was it the anniversary of their first meeting? That hasn't even reached a year yet. Did she find out about his flirtation with Hua Qingwu? But she knew about the brothel visit and wasn't angry at the time. As Zhang Xiaochuan was lost in thought, Yao seeing his confusion, directly said, "You said you were going to finally buy today." "Oh, right. I was wondering what I seemed to forget. I don't even know if he is still at the brothel." Zhang Xiaochuan chuckled to himself, realizing he might have been overly affected by modern dating issues, overthinking everything. But when will ancient people change this habit of overreacting? He should still be there. I told the brothel staff to put all expenses on your tab for Li Bai, and if he leaves, they must inform us. I haven't seen anyone from the brothel yet. Zhang Xiaochuan pulled Yao close and gently kissed her cheek. Yao, you're truly my capable assistant. I love you more and more. Oh, it's still broad daylight. Aren't you embarrassed? Not at all. Just wash up and wait for me to come back. As Zhang Xiaochuan's vehicle was about a mile away from the brothel, it came to a halt. He pulled back the curtain. Su Daniel looked at Zhang Xiaochuan with a troubled expression. The road ahead is blocked by a cart. Erlang, you might have to walk from here. What? Traffic jam in the Tang Dynasty. Of course, traffic jams can happen even in the Great Tang Dynasty, but they only occur in the capital. Looking at the situation, it seems we won't be able to move for a while and have no choice but to get out and walk. Upon arriving at the brothel, we found it overcrowded. Could it be that there is a custom in the Tang Dynasty of visiting such places during the New Year? I've never seen anything like this before. I saw Hua Qingwu standing at the entrance, flustered. Dear guests, we really have no space inside. Please come back another day. No way. We've been waiting for a month. Exactly. You've been closed for so long, and I have nowhere else to go. Just let me stand inside. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but complain. Is this brothel really that amazing? Why wait for a month just for this one? Such loyal customers must be kept. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but say, Sister Hua, they've waited a month. Letting them in Wu hurt your business. Hua Qingwu instinctively retorted, what do you mean a month? These two were at Chiefing Building just yesterday. Halfway through, she realized it was Zhang Xiaochuan, and her expression brightened. Suddenly raising her voice, she announced, everyone, listen up. The creator of the new songs and dances is here, the young master from our county's male mansion, known as the Little Celestial Master. As soon as she finished speaking, Zhang Xiaochuan felt a sense of impending doom. He couldn't escape this. With a sigh, he listened to the chatter around him. Little Celestial Master, how did you create such captivating songs and dances? Is this a celestial song and dance? Zhang Xiaochuan shouted, stop. Everyone, listen to me. There is something important today. I will host a banquet at the brothel another day to answer all your questions. And there will be new songs presented then. Upon hearing about the new songs, the crowd stopped surrounding Zhang Xiaochuan and began excitedly shouting, Little Celestial Master! Little Celestial Master! Zhang Xiaochuan finally succeeded in entering the brothel with Hua Qingwu, wrapping his arm around her waist and playfully pinching her. Sister Hua, you've gone too far. Using me as a shield. Hua Qingwu discreetly brushed off his hand. Young master, please don't take offense. There is really no other way. Zhang Xiaochuan pulled her closer. I don't care. You owe me a favor. Hua Qingwu twisted to escape his grasp. What kind of compensation do you want? As they spoke, they had already entered the building, and the sounds of music and singing filled the air. The most dazzling ethnic song was being performed, showcasing the most beautiful posture of the sky. Zhang Xiaochuan turned to Hua Qingwu. Oh, it's like a concert. Before Hua Qingwu could respond, Zhang Xiaochuan let go of her and walked away. As she relaxed her waist, she felt a bit disappointed. Zhang Xiaochuan caught hold of the drunkard who had just finished singing. Brother Tai Bai. Haha, my dear brother, the song you composed is magnificent. I'm a bit tipsy. That's the point. At least 1 billion people in later generations will be tipsy. At that moment, Dan Xiaoxing approached, and the three of them found a private room. Zhang Xiaochuan wasted no time and complained. Brother Tai Bai, you seem quite busy. Li Bai completely failed to detect any blame in the words. Fortunately, I wasn't busy at first. But seeing your new style songs and dances made me feel that, although simple, they are very dynamic and carefree, bringing great joy and appreciated by both the refined and the common. This is quite rare. Zhang Xiaochuan noticed that Li Bai was not picking up on his cues and realized he had not enhanced his emotional intelligence, so he casually replied. It's good if Brother Tai Bai enjoys it. Li Bai continued talking to himself. I wonder what this style of music is called. This is called folk style. A style that is popular and easy to understand for the people. Folk style, a style loved by the people. Good. Let's raise a toast. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself that it felt a bit off talking to Li Bai, and it turned out he missed that line. Since it was rare to meet such a millennial star, he decided to drink. He lifted his cup and said, let's raise a toast. Cheers. Before Li Bai could respond, Zhang Xiaochuan quickly asked, Brother Tai Bai, did you come here for something? Li Bai slapped his forehead. Look at me. I've forgotten the important matter. Previously, Mr. Zhang wrote me a recommendation letter, and I plan to head to the capital soon. Last time, I had a great conversation with you, and I found your eloquence impressive. I wanted to invite you to go to the capital with me to seek a career in government. But upon arriving, I was captivated by the new things at your estate. Everything is quite ingenious. The three of them echoed together. Let's raise a toast. Haha. Chapter 110. Did you sleep with a false mother? After they finished a drink, Zhang Xiaochuan finally responded to Li Bai. My aspirations do not lie in entering the officialdom. And I also advise Brother Tai Bai not to take it too seriously. There are so many joyful things in the world. Why make it difficult for ourselves? Upon hearing Zhang Xiaochuan's words, Li Bai suddenly became serious. Brother, although I usually act freely and unconstrained, I am also someone who cares about the public good. The common people suffer too much. With our talents, we should speak up for them. Unfortunately, one person's ability is limited, and we must enter the officialdom to rely on the court's power to change the people's lives. You should also take on some responsibility. Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to tell him that the current court is a place where one voice prevails, where capable people either leave the court or engage in petty dealings. And that Li Bai could end up in a lot of trouble. However, if Li Bai did not change his nature, saying these things would be useless. But if he did change, would he still be Li Bai? Would there still be so many timeless verses? Artists need to be stubborn, carefree, and endure the harshness of society. Plus, he himself is not a dogmatic person, so he responded, what Brother Tai Bai said makes sense. Truly, listening to you is enlightening. Listening to you is enlightening. Haha, wonderful indeed. Brother, your words are also enlightening. Let's raise a toast. Cheers. It seems Li Bai understood his meaning. Zhang Xiaochuan then asked Dan Xiaoxing, I wonder where Taoist Dan is planning to go? I wish to travel to the capital with Mr. Li, and then seek the arts of alchemy and elixirs. I wonder what Taoist Dan is searching for these things for. Haha, Mr. Zhang knows but asks anyway. This is naturally for the path to immortality. Then, I wonder if Taoist Dan has made any gains? Dan Xiaoxing shook his head, pondering for a moment before sighing. I have found quite a bit regarding the methods of gold and stone, but unfortunately, they are of no benefit for immortality. What the world knows about elixirs is all mere fantasy. Upon hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan immediately said, I have a technique that, when thoroughly studied, allows one to fly, move through mountains and earth, and extend one's lifespan. I wonder if Taoist Dan has any interest in it. Naturally, Dan Xiaoxing's first reaction was disbelief. However, Zhang Xiaochuan had no reason to joke with him, so he could only maintain a skeptical attitude. I know this may be hard to believe, so I brought something. Why don't we try it out in the courtyard? Zhang Xiaochuan then took out a fist-sized spherical object, which was especially made mini-explosive to impress Dan Xiaoxing. Complete with a fuse several centimeters long. He went to the courtyard, spotted a crack in the wall, and removed a brick from it. He then placed the explosive inside, lit it with a match, and quickly retreated to about 10 meters away. There was a loud bang as a large hole the size of a table was blown in the wall, and half of the wall collapsed in response. Li Bai and Dan Xiaoxing were both stunned by the immense power. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could further persuade them, Hua Qingwu rushed over in a panic. What happened? Why was there a thunderous sound? Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan and the others focused in one direction, she followed their gaze and jumped up as if she had stepped on a cat's tail. My goodness, the wall has been struck down. What on earth is going on? Zhang Xiaochuan replied honestly, Sister Hua, I was just sparring with Taoist Dan and accidentally created a palm thunder that hit the courtyard wall. How much will it cost? I'll compensate you. Palm thunder? Alright then, I'll send someone to clean it up. Hua Qingwu left, still somewhat skeptical, while Zhang Xiaochuan and the others returned to the house to continue drinking. Haha, my younger brother, your reputation as a little celestial master is well deserved. The three of them said in unison, toasting a great white. After finishing their drinks, before Zhang Xiaochuan could persuade them further, Dan Xiaoxing agreed. He clasped his hands in salute to Zhang Xiaochuan, saying, in that case, I will trouble you in the future. Zhang Xiaochuan, having achieved his goal, replied happily, huh? No problem. Li Bai added, I have a feeling that Brother Dan will gain something from this trip. The three of them echoed, toasting a great white, cheers. At that moment, Hua Qingwu came in, approached Zhang Xiaochuan, and performed a graceful bow. Unfortunately, just as she had completed half of the gesture, Zhang Xiaochuan grabbed her and pulled her into his embrace. Hua Qingwu twisted a couple of times symbolically, but ceased to resist. Sister Hua, did you come specifically to drink with me? Oh dear, little celestial master, I am no longer young. You shouldn't tease me. If I get riled up, I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it. Is that so? Then I'd like to try. Li Bai, watching Zhang Xiaochuan tease Hua Qingwu, chimed in jokingly. I didn't expect my younger brother to be quite the charmer, a romantic figure with a rather unique taste. To a great white. Brother Tai Bai, you don't understand. Sister Hua has shed her youthful innocence and is now a woman of great charm. She will eventually be my type, toasting a great white. Oh, you little lecher. I'm still here. Aren't you ashamed to say such things? With that, Hua Qingwu exerted some strength and broke free from Zhang Xiaochuan's embrace. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at Hua Qingwu and thought, it seems I have a long way to go before I can share a romantic moment with Sister Hua. Hua Qingwu retorted, little lecher, indeed, it's a very long road ahead. Stop teasing me. I'm here for serious business. Serious business? Please, go ahead. I just calculated the cost for the wall repairs, along with some expenses from a few individuals, and I'm here to settle the accounts with you, little master. Oh, really? How much is it? Altogether, it's 2,367 coins, but we'll round it down to 2,300 coins. Zhang Xiaochuan widened his eyes. Sister Hua, we're familiar enough, but you can't be joking about this. What do you mean? I'm running a business. There's no way I'd swindle you, little brother. Zhang Xiaochuan calculated that his dinner and drinks with Li Bai tonight only amounted to a few dozen coins. So the 2,300 coins must be for the wall repairs. Is your wall made of gold? No, the wall cost only 100 coins, but it was a full 30 meters down, and it damaged 2 rooms. There were also some fine stone carvings and a pile of precious flowers and plants. I might have even undercharged you. 100 coins for that wall isn't too much, but are you saying that tonight's food and drinks, plus the entertainment, cost over 2,000 coins? Hua Qingwu covered her mouth and chuckled lightly. Don't rush, let me finish. Didn't Madame Yao instruct Li Bai to put all expenses on your account? Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but interrupt Hua Qingwu, shouting at Li Bai, I thought you were a good brother. Did you sleep with a fake mother or something? How could you spend over 2,000 coins? This is Sister Hua, I'm trying to impress. Hua Qingwu looked up to the sky in silence, wondering how the little master's thoughts had gone astray, and why he seemed a bit pleased while being jealous. When Li Bai heard the 2,000 coins were his, he immediately lost his composure. Fake mother. You can't just say anything. I only drank a few pots of wine. How could it be over 2,000 coins? Hua Qingwu, feeling helpless, said, Can you both please let me finish? Zhang Xiaochuan and Li Bai responded in unison. Please go ahead. Chapter 111. Holiday surprise. Hua Qingwu began to explain. Today, the shop was packed because of the new style of song and dance performance. Li Langjun shouted from the stage that he would cover the bill for everyone, asking everyone to drink heartily. At that moment, the crowd cheered, praising Li Langjun for his generosity. Upon hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan looked at Li Bai with a strange expression. Li Bai seemed to understand what was happening and felt a bit awkward. So the 2,000 coins is the total for everyone. Exactly, every detail is clear. If Li Langjun wants to check, he can do so anytime. I just shouted that casually, and I don't have that much money to settle the bill. Zhang Xiaochuan seized the opportunity to tease. Well, now you do. Hua Qingwu replied irritably. Otherwise, why do you think you weren't thrown out? Li Bai was momentarily speechless. Brother, I absolutely cannot let you take on this cost. Stop right there. Even if it's over 2,000 coins, even 20,000, you should accept it. I won't let you pay a single coin, otherwise it would betray our friendship. As they say, money can't buy happiness, so I'll spend it however I like. Li Bai still felt uneasy. No, brother, I really can't let you do this. Alright, if you feel burdened, you have no idea how wealthy I am. It's something you can't even imagine. But I'm curious, why did you shout that you'd cover the bill for everyone? This is not the last time I drank with my younger brother. I heard him say that today. Young Master Zhang is picking up the tab, which felt quite impressive. And I shouted out, feeling very refreshed afterwards. So, Zhang Xiaochuan continued with Li Bai's words. So that's not right. What I shouted was today this young master is treating, not the whole venue. Suddenly realizing halfway through, this genius Li Bai. That phrase about this young master treating has already been upgraded to the whole venue covering the bill. You're amazing. With this disturbance, naturally, the drinks couldn't be finished. So Zhang Xiaochuan said goodbye to Dan Xiuxing and Li Bai. Dan Xiuxing wanted to send Li Bai off once more, so he didn't return to the manor with Zhang Xiaochuan. Zhang Xiaochuan went back and told Yaoer about the incident. She laughed so hard she nearly fell over. To enjoy the holiday properly, the next day, Zhang Xiaochuan took Yaoer to Baita Lake. Nowadays, going to Baita Lake is not for camping. Zhang Xiaochuan specially had a villa built there. A villa, lakeside view, beautiful woman, and the first carbon fiber fishing rod in history. How delightful. You can pour the rice right there. Yes, just like that. Little Tianshi, please call me Director Zhang or Brother Chuan. Director Zhang. Are we really pouring 1,000 pounds of pure white rice into the lake like this? Yes, if it's not pure white rice, I don't want it. It's a pity there's no corn. What did you say, Director Zhang? Nothing, just hurry up and pour it in. Once you're done, you can go back. Zhang Xiaochuan watched as bag after bag of grain was poured into the water and couldn't help but clench his fists. This time, he must catch a big one, otherwise, it would be a disservice to this carbon fiber fishing rod. The challenge of fishing on a deserted island with his wife officially began. After staying at Baita Lake for 2 days, on New Year's Eve, Zhang Xiaochuan and Yaoer returned to have their reunion dinner. Yaoer complained that Baita Lake was too desolate and wanted to celebrate the new year at the manor. She even invited a group of young girls of similar age from Happy Home to go shopping. Zhang Xiaochuan's goal had not been achieved. He had not caught the big fish yet, so he returned to continue his fishing venture. However, without Yaoer, he was too lazy to prepare meals. 3 meals a day were provided by someone else. Holding the fishing rod in his hand, looking at the calm lake surface, Zhang Xiaochuan felt a surge of emotions. He didn't expect to have the carbon fiber fishing rod ready so soon. It seemed that knowing the answers and developing technology was quite rapid. However, there were too few people capable of doing research now. If this continued, Su Changming would wear himself out. He couldn't wait for the school to be built. After the 15th day, all children should start their enlightenment education. For now, it would be fine to have it in the office building. While Zhang Xiaochuan was still pondering, the bobber moved. Big black bobber. He lifted the rod sharply and hooked a fish. After a slight tug, it didn't feel too heavy, and he quickly dragged it to the surface. Nice, about 2 pounds of grass carp. He took it home, baited the hook, and continued casting. Before long, he caught another one weighing over 3 pounds. This was definitely a consecutive catch. It seemed that the thousands of pounds of grain were not in vain. Finally, after countless efforts, on the 5th day, he unlocked a giant fish weighing 30 pounds, which was purely wild. Such joy in life is hard to come by. For 5 days, no one disturbed him. Just one person, one rod, and one lake, along with the success of the challenge, made Zhang Xiaochuan feel a bit overwhelmed with joy at this moment. Zhang Xiaochuan, exhausted from fishing all day, was happily holding a large grass carp weighing over 30 pounds when a rider on a fast horse rushed toward him. Erlang, Yaoer is in trouble. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly dropped the fish and asked, what happened? The people who had gone to the market with Yaoer's mother returned, saying that Yaoer had been taken away. A fierce look appeared on Zhang Xiaochuan's face. Who did it? Where are they? As he spoke, Zhang Xiaochuan grabbed the reins and climbed onto his horse, and the two of them rode toward the village. The identity of the assailant was still unclear, but the village had already sent people to rescue her. According to the descriptions from those who returned, she had been taken toward the direction of Bowning. Bowning direction? Isn't that toward the Tibetan region? Could it be the White Dog tribe? I haven't sought them out yet, and they come to provoke me first. It seems they are looking for trouble. Upon returning to the village, a team was already waiting for Zhang Xiaochuan, and as soon as he arrived, they set off immediately. In a bamboo grove southwest of Jinyuan County in Shuzhou, a weak-looking young scholar was talking to a burly man beside him. It was none other than Liao Bin. General Bianba, if we cross this forest, we will reach Bowning. Let us take a break. They probably won't catch up so soon. Yuhan people are really useless. You can't even handle this little distance. Liao Bin could only smile awkwardly, thinking to himself that he couldn't compare with the fierce Tibetan warriors. Liao Bin's gaze shifted to Yaoer on the ground, and he thought lewdly. This Yaoer has become even more beautiful after half a year, and her strange clothing accentuates her curves, making me feel restless. Turning to Bianba, he wore a flattering expression. General, your bravery is unmatched, and naturally, we cannot compare. Flattery never goes out of style, even among nomadic tribes, and Bianba was quite pleased with Liao Bin's compliments. Haha, you have good taste. Let us rest here for a while. While Bianba and his warriors were preparing food, Liao Bin's greedy hands quietly reached for Yaoer. Seeing the lecherous look in Liao Bin's eyes, Yaoer knew that her chance of escaping depended on him. Fearing Yaoer would resist, Liao Bin gripped her tightly. My lady, let me see how Zhang Ershao's pretty maid has turned into his wife now, huh? I can't wait to see the painful expression on Zhang Xiaochuan's face when he finds out I have you beneath me. Yaoer timely exclaimed, you're hurting me. This only excited Liao Bin further. Scream, haha, the more you scream, the happier I get. Chapter 112. Bastard dares to bully Yaoer. Yaoer suppressed her disgust and flatteringly negotiated. I know I can't escape today, but I don't like being forced. Can you let me serve you, my lord? Liao Bin was gradually losing control. Oh, I also like obedient ladies, but tied up. How do you plan to serve me? So, my lord, you have to release me for me to serve you properly. I have many skills. Liao Bin, being a lecher, couldn't resist upon hearing skills. His mind instantly filled with desire, and he rushed to untie Yaoer. A person beside Bianba asked, General, that Han person has released our prey. Should we not be concerned? Bianba replied, it's fine, as long as he is alive, he can't escape anyway. That girl, so fair and delicate. I've only seen one comparable to her in my life, the Queen of the Eastern Kingdom. I wonder if the young one can. Bianba nodded in approval. After Liao Bin untied the ropes, he was expecting to be served by the beauty, but instead, he was met with her bullets. Bang! In the quiet bamboo forest, the gunfire was particularly loud. Liao Bin clutched his stomach and staggered back 2 steps before collapsing, curling up in pain. Bianba quickly assumed a defensive stance and shouted, not good, it's the divine weapon of the Han people. The other warriors of the White Dog tribe drew their knives and prepared for battle. But before they could fully draw their weapons, bang, 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 3 more gunshots rang out. 3 White Dog warriors fell in response. In an instant, everyone was in a standoff. Bianba was unsure how many bullets Yao could still fire. Even if there was only one left, it could hit him, which wouldn't be worth it. Meanwhile, Yao calculated that her pistol had 8 bullets, 4 of which had already been fired, leaving her with 4 against more than 10 opponents. For now, she could only use it as a deterrent. Whoever charged forward first would be shot. Yao slowly retreated while Bianba and his men advanced step by step. As time passed, Bianba was sure the other side wouldn't be able to kill everyone. He waved his hand and said, her divine weapon should be running low. Everyone, charge with me and capture her at once. Yao realized the situation was dire, immediately turned and ran, occasionally looking back to fire a shot to slow them down. Unfortunately, her bullets soon ran out, and with the enemy on horseback, Yao, knowing it would be difficult to escape today, prepared to take her own life rather than fall into their hands and suffer humiliation. Young master, where are you? In the next life, I will still follow you and eat the cakes you make for me. I'm coming. Bang, bang, bang. A few gunshots rang out, followed by the sound of galloping hooves approaching. One of the riders shouted, don't shoot anymore. Capture her alive. Just as Bianba was about to turn and flee, hearing capture alive restored his confidence. With 3 riders against his 7 or 8 warriors, he was sure they wouldn't return. He turned his horse around and pointed at the newcomers. White dog warriors, kill them. Unfortunately, Bianba underestimated the enemy and overestimated himself. As soon as they faced off, he was knocked off his horse, and before he could understand the situation, he was already shackled. The leader was Tung Yi, who kicked Bianba over. The device invented by Erlang is really useful. These handcuffs are so convenient for binding people. After the White Dog tribe attacked the village, Zhang Xiaochuan guessed that it would be inevitable to encounter violence in the future, as his wealth circle was expanding and would continue to grow. However, killing people each time felt too inhumane. After all, everyone would be one family in 1,000 years. But letting them go was also unsatisfactory. So why not capture them to work for oneself? Thus, he had MOTNG create many handcuffs, emphasizing that capturing alive would come with rewards in future battles. Tung Yi kicked Bianba and hurried to check on Yao, only to find her curled up on the ground in pain. Tung Yi helped Yao up and said with concern, you mustn't get hurt, or else the credit for saving you will be greatly diminished. Yao was speechless, feeling choked by his words, and anxiously pointed at Tung Yi. Abba, my tongue was pulled out. I'll kill you bastards. Although she threatened to kill, she didn't actually take action, instead resorting to a flurry of punches and kicks. Bianba was quite frustrated. After all, she hadn't pulled Yao's tongue out. So what was going on? Finally, Yao managed to speak, albeit with a slight lisp. Seeing that Yao could talk, Tung Yi immediately stopped and looked at her with great concern, fearing she might be hurt. Yao took a moment to catch her breath and said haltingly, I was about to bite my tongue and end it all, but halfway through I heard your gunshots and managed to escape. She then spat out a mouthful of blood. Upon hearing this, Tung Yi was alarmed. They had pushed Yao to the brink of suicide. He turned to Bianba and launched into another tirade. How dare you bully Yao? Bianba curled up in frustration. Why was she being beaten for something that had nothing to do with her? Yao, not wanting to watch Tung Yi show off, pointed at Liao Bin, who was still writhing. All right, tie him up too. We'll deal with him later. Understood, young lady. Tung Yi quickly called for someone to cuff Liao Bin and arranged for another person to return with news. Soon, the messenger returned, followed by a team led by Zhang Xiaochuan. Zhang rushed over and embraced Yao with concern, asking, they didn't hurt you, did they? Despite the fact that they had already crossed a line, Yao felt her face flush with embarrassment in front of so many people. There are so many people here. Let go of me first. Seeing her shy demeanor, Zhang smiled and released her. Meanwhile, Tung Yi seized the opportunity to take credit. Lang. It was I who saved Yao from the brink of suicide at a critical moment. What? She was forced to bite her tongue. Bianba, lying on the ground, had a bad feeling. Sure enough, the next moment, Zhang scanned the area and spotted Bianba, who was clearly the leader. He began to unleash a flurry of blows while cursing, bastard. I'll kill you for forcing Yao to bite her tongue. Just wait until I finish you. After a while, Zhang grew tired of the fight, and Tung Yi stepped forward again. Lang. This time it was I who saved Yao. You owe me for this. Name your reward. Gold and silver are all yours. I don't want any of that. Zhang chuckled. How about I find you a wife? What? A wife? No way. Then what do you want? Since the White Dog tribe is causing trouble, I suppose you won't be able to tolerate it any longer. Zhang was quite annoyed by Tung Yi's slyness. Just say it. If we go to deal with the White Dog tribe, I want to be the leader. Tung Yi was crafty, but since he had saved Yao, he reluctantly agreed. Fine. He waved his hand and said, let us head home. Chapter 113. Instant kill. There was no need for extensive investigation after returning. The situation was quite clear and matched previous assumptions. Liao Bin and his son had escaped to a certain tribal area and teamed up with a local leader. Liao Bin and Bianba had infiltrated the region to kidnap Zhang Xiaochuan. However, the Zhang family's defenses were as solid as an iron barrel, and they had not found an opportunity to act. They discovered that Yao was Zhang Xiaochuan's cherished companion, so they kidnapped her, intending to use her as leverage against Zhang Xiaochuan. Upon learning that Liao Bin was involved and that Liao Bin had survived the previous encounter without sustaining critical injuries, Zhang Xiaochuan immediately ordered her execution. Although he did not have a penchant for killing, he believed that those who targeted his family must not be spared. This incident thoroughly enraged Zhang Xiaochuan, prompting him to seek out Mo Tianji. Give me another 100 units of advanced weaponry. I'm going to deal with this. Mo Tianji, though busy working on an engine, was fully aware of the situation and knew that Yao Air was safe enough to continue his work. He readily agreed. This is a minor issue. With our current equipment, we can produce 100 units in 2 days. Also, the engine has passed preliminary testing. Great. Have you also made progress on the aircraft parts? Zhang Xiaochuan asked. Mo Tianji chuckled. Of course, just help me with the assembly, and then we can proceed to testing. 5 days later, on the 10th day of the Lunar New Year, a 100-strong team marched towards the tribal area. Each person's horse carried 2 crates, one filled with 500 rounds of ammunition and the other with compressed biscuits, while they also carried advanced weaponry. With no other supplies, their marching speed was swift, and crossing the border was simple, using their financial resources. It was not uncommon for a merchant caravan of this size to covertly travel to the tribal region to trade items like salt and iron. On the 3rd day of travel, they arrived at the tribal area. Although it was home to a nomadic people, there was still a king's city, albeit a rather shabby one. Besides the temple, nothing else resembled a royal city. It was more akin to a small town. Zhang Xiaochuan waved his hand. And Teng Yi immediately shouted at the makeshift royal city, "People of the tribe, your doom approaches. Clean yourselves up and prepare." Due to the small size of the royal city, in less than a quarter of an hour, the tribal king and his advisor stood on the city wall, which was only 3 to 4 meters high. Zhang Xiaochuan stepped forward to speak, but realized that Teng Yi had already shouted the classic lines. So he signaled for Teng Yi to come closer. When Teng Yi approached, Zhang Xiaochuan flicked his whip and struck him lightly. Teng Yi looked bewildered. The king and his advisor were equally confused. Zhang Xiaochuan addressed the bewildered Teng Yi. "Tell them they have half an hour to surrender, or I will flatten their stronghold." On the city wall, the king nearly spat blood. So close, and yet the message was delivered clearly, even with a request for communication. Turning to his men, he commanded, "Gather immediately, we will confront them outside the city. I want to see what this 100-strong can do." The advisor quickly intervened. "My king, please don't go. This person is extremely sinister, and they possess weapons that can kill without a trace." Luochu sneered contemptuously, looking down on the timid and cowardly people. What could such individuals do against him, even with powerful weapons? While Luochu was gathering his troops, Zhang Xiaochuan and his group were leisurely chatting outside the city. "Erlang, now I am the leader of a team. Isn't it inappropriate for you to whip me like this? Forget about you being the team leader. Ask the other uncles if they recognize you as one." The other members of the internal guard laughed heartily, but Teng Yi spoke earnestly. "Don't laugh. Military orders are like mountains. Since I am the captain, you all have to listen to me. And as the saying goes, a snake can't function without a head. If you don't follow me, how can we win the battle?" In fact, everyone was just joking around. Since Teng Yi had become the captain, they still followed his commands. Zhang Xiaochuan added, "All right, I'll try not to whip you. But you can't steal my thunder every time." The next moment, Zhang Xiaochuan's whip landed on Teng Yi again. Teng Yi remarked, "Erlang, your skills aren't that great. You're just jealous. It's clearly your own lack of ability, yet you blame me for stealing your spotlight." Just as Teng Yi was about to express his frustration after being whipped again, Zhang Xiaochuan said, "I take back what I just said. I'll whip you as needed." Just then, Luochu led his men and quickly charged out, surrounding Zhang Xiaochuan's group in an instant. Luochu was ruthless. Without any negotiation, he launched an attack to catch the enemy off guard. As soon as he surrounded them, he raised his hand and shouted, "Archers!" On the other side, Teng Yi suddenly became serious. "Free fire, protect Erlang." Bang! Before Luochu's command for a volley had even been completed, those who had taken the archery stance were already shot down by more than half and were still being targeted. In ancient warfare, archers typically had a preparatory stance that required a pause of 3 to 5 seconds before shouting for a volley, allowing everyone to shoot together for a rain of arrows. Luochu had brought only about 400 to 500 men, thinking it would be easy to deal with Zhang Xiaochuan. But in just 5 seconds, his entire force was wiped out. At that moment, Luochu felt an indescribable mix of despair, fear, and absurdity. It was not merely the pain of defeat. After a lifetime of battles, there were wins and losses, total victories, mutual destruction, and even major defeats. But he had never experienced a situation where the battle ended before the attack command was fully issued. Could it be that he had provoked some divine beings? Now, among the White Dog tribe, only Luochu remained with his hands raised, feeling quite awkward. He was also a tough character and slowly raised his other hand. "I surrender. I am willing to submit to the celestial beings." Since the time of Li Shimin, for nomadic tribes, the emperor of the Tang dynasty was considered the heavenly Khan, and the Tang dynasty itself was regarded as the celestial empire. The emissaries of the Tang were called heavenly envoys. Luochu thought this was a formal military action. There were still a few hundred warriors in the city, but given the current situation, it seemed that even thousands of them would not be enough to withstand the onslaught of the 100 opponents. Seeing that he wasn't shot and received no response, he clearly felt that his sincerity was still insufficient. Thus, Luochu slowly dismounted and walked in front of Zhang Xiaochuan, kneeling down on both knees. At this moment, Zhang Xiaochuan was contemplating whether to whip Teng Yi a couple more times. After all, they had just won a battle, and it seemed a bit inappropriate. However, he thought, "You all resolved the fight before I even had my gun ready. I should have just stayed home sleeping with Yaoer, instead of coming here to endure this cold wind." Yet, in Luo Tohua's eyes, he perfectly embodied the posture of an upper-class figure, allowing Zhang Xiaochuan to show off a bit. Zhang Xiaochuan said calmly, "Get up. Take me into the city, and also bring Liao Kuan to me." Yes. At that moment, Luo Tohua's back was already soaked with sweat, following Zhang Xiaochuan like a little eunuch. Upon entering the city, regardless of gender or age, everyone along the road knelt on both sides. Zhang Xiaochuan nodded in satisfaction. It seemed he had thoroughly subdued them. Chapter 114. If a soldier can be killed, then kill him. Upon entering the palace, Zhang Xiaochuan expected it to be a huge tent, but to his surprise, it was also a stone building. However, he understood this. After all, they could only be considered semi-nomadic, so they still had fixed residences. Zhang Xiaochuan sat down in the council hall alongside Luo Tohu. The hall's interior resembled a gathering hall from a historical drama, but the decorations were much more intricate, featuring patterns with distinct ethnic characteristics. Luo Tohu stood by Zhang Xiaochuan's side, and soon someone brought Liao Kuan in. Liao Kuan had not yet grasped the situation and was ready to continue intimidating Zhang Xiaochuan. "Zhang family brat, although I am now a prisoner. Do you know who stands behind me? If you know what is good for you, quickly let me go." Zhang Xiaochuan remained silent, took out his whip, and struck Ting Yi, leaving everyone in the hall, except for those brought by Zhang Xiaochuan, stunned. "Why are you hitting your own subordinate?" In fact, Zhang Xiaochuan and Tung Yi had formed a kind of tacit understanding. Zhang Xiaochuan's whip signals were like Morse code, but only Tung Yi could understand the commands. Tung Yi rushed in front of Liao Kuan, swinging his fists. "You have someone behind you, right? You have someone above you, right? You still want to bully Yao, right?" Liao Kuan was now confused and in pain, his face already swelling up. What was going on? "If you're not going to let me go, at least say something. Why did you start hitting me, and who is Yao?" Just as Tung Yi stopped, Liao Kuan jumped up. "A soldier can be killed, but not humiliated." "What do you mean, Zhang family brat?" Zhang Xiaochuan interrupted Liao Kuan with a flick of his whip, saying, "Not to be humiliated? Humiliate him." Tung Yi immediately received the order, covering Liao Kuan's mouth with his hand, then quickly took off his shoes and socks, stuffing them into Liao Kuan's mouth. Liao Kuan's eyes widened in anger, but he couldn't make a sound, wanting to bang his head against the wall to die, only to find himself firmly restrained. Left with nothing but rage and bloodshot eyes, Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, "Stay away from Tung Yi in the future. This guy is too reckless. Those socks feel like they're emitting green smoke." Liao Kuan shed tears of regret, feeling utterly humiliated. Unfortunately, Zhang Xiaochuan had no intention of continuing the conversation. Pointing his whip at Liao Kuan, he declared, "If a soldier can be killed, then kill him." Bang! Tung Yi raised his hand and shot Liao Kuan in the forehead. Due to the close range, brain matter splattered everywhere, covering Luo Tohu in the process. Luo Tua secretly rejoiced, thankful for his wise decision to surrender immediately. This really is a living nightmare, torturing and humiliating Liao Kuan before directly killing him, completely indifferent to who was behind him. Moreover, the method of humiliation was quite elaborate. Zhang Xiaochuan harbored deep resentment, saying to himself, "Li Linfu, just you wait, I will settle the score with you sooner or later." In Chang'an, achoo! Li Linfu sneezed loudly, and a servant immediately stepped forward to hand him a handkerchief. "Master, it's chilly outside, you should come in and wait." "It's nothing. Just felt a sudden chill on my back, but I'm fine now." At that moment, the steward reported, "Master, Lord Ji and Lord Luo are already waiting." "Then let's set off." Since the time of Zhang Jueling, most chancellors were from the imperial examination system, and therefore, many officials in the court were also from formal backgrounds. Someone like Li Linfu, who was uneducated, was often looked down upon by many officials despite his position as chancellor. After Zhang Jueling's fall, Li Linfu began to suppress dissenters aggressively. However, Li Linfu was very cautious and careful when he wanted to suppress an official. He often first consulted Ji1 and Luo Shishir, finding small incriminating evidence against the target before imprisoning them and forcing confessions, fabricating charges. It is often said that leaving a name in history is remarkable. Being mentioned even briefly in historical records is no small feat, for instance. A provincial governor today would be equivalent to a mayor, and in history, they might just be noted as having served in that position in a certain year. These two, however, were infamous in history. To say they were well known would be an understatement, as they were included in the new Book of Tang under the section for notorious officials, which described them as having a dreadful reputation. Ji1 and Luo Shishir also had a combined name, Luo Qian Jiwang. Simply put, Ji1 was responsible for writing reports and creating various leads to make the charges logical, while Luo Shishir negotiated with the prisoners through various means, ultimately reaching a consensus for signatures. Thus, it wasn't apparent that Li Linfu was targeting anyone specifically, as they operated within the bounds of the law. Li Linfu made his way to a secluded courtyard, where the steward knocked rhythmically on the door, which creaked open. Ji1 and Luo Shishir were already standing on either side, and Li Linfu stepped inside, with the two quickly following. "How are things?" Reporting to the chancellor. "All personnel have verified the evidence, and everyone has confessed. Here are the testimonies," Ji1 said, handing over a stack of blood-stained papers. Li Linfu glanced at them but did not take them, instead saying, "With the new crown prince's status still undecided, this is a crucial time for securing the prince's title. We must not allow any opposing voices to emerge within or outside the capital." The two bowed in response. "We will comply with your orders." Ji1 then asked, What about the individuals mentioned in the testimonies? They will be dealt with according to the law? How can you ask me about this? Let's leave it at that for today. In the Xingqing Palace of Chang'an, Your Majesty, is my massage comfortable? Yes, very comfortable. Hui's skills are undoubtedly impeccable. Despite being over 30, Consort Wu still retained her charm, her supple waist moving gracefully as she massaged Li Longji, offering a unique experience. Your Majesty, you no longer care about me. With a playful tone, Consort Wu, upon seeing this, made Li Longji immediately take her hand and pull her into his embrace. Hui, how could you say such a thing? What do you mean? Zhar is already 18, and there is still no progress on her marriage. These people below are starting to brush me off. The selection of a partner for the prince and princess is a matter for the Internal Affairs Office, specifically under the responsibility of a certain official. The emperor is well aware of this official's diligence, not to mention the favored consort. It's unlikely she wouldn't be attentive. It must be that she is too picky. Could it be that you are being too selective, my lady? I have always trusted this general to handle matters efficiently. Because the emperor has great confidence in this official, he holds many positions, one of which is the general of the Right Gate Guards. Therefore, the emperor and high-ranking officials often refer to him as the general. The consort stood up, twisting her waist, and pinched the emperor's shoulder firmly. Your Majesty, you just don't care about me. The pinch was just right, a bit painful yet not too much, reflecting her annoyance while also being somewhat pleasurable, effectively keeping the emperor in check. All right, I still don't know your thoughts, so tell me, what do you want? The consort then explained, not long ago, I came across a beautiful lady, and I am quite satisfied. I wish to ask for your decree. Upon hearing this, the emperor responded, you want to choose a daughter-in-law yourself? A trivial matter. Great. It's rare for you to take an interest. I wonder whose daughter it is. From the Hongnongyang family, named Yuhuan. She is also from a prestigious family, so it's fitting. After the Lantern Festival, I shall issue a decree to grant the marriage. General, please remember this for me. The official quickly bowed and replied, this old servant will take note. Chapter 115. The welcome ceremony is a bit grand. The entire White Dog tribe submitted thoroughly. Upon learning that Zhang Xiaochuan was not sent by a certain empire, but was only attacking for revenge, they requested him to become their new king. Zhang Xiaochuan allowed Luochu to continue as king, as long as he pledged allegiance and maintained peace, promising to lead them to prosperity and the peak of life. Luochu found this amusing. He thought that as long as Zhang Xiaochuan had the strength, he could say whatever he wanted. To celebrate Zhang Xiaochuan becoming their new master, Luochu requested a bonfire feast that evening, to which Zhang Xiaochuan naturally agreed. He asked Luochu to clear a space in the city and then use lime to draw a large circular pattern, claiming that it was to guide the logistics troops arriving later. At this moment, Zhang Xiaochuan, Luochu, and others were standing next to a giant letter H. Suddenly, a buzzing sound was heard, growing louder, and they saw a black dot slowly appearing in the sky. As the sound increased, the dot got larger and revealed itself to be grayish-white. This was the latest helicopter. With a loud boom, a huge box suspended beneath the helicopter was lowered to the ground, and as the rope fell, the helicopter landed nearby. The strong airflow it created blew up the clothes of everyone present. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was about to introduce Luochu, he noticed Luochu kneeling down, followed by the entire White Dog tribe kneeling in unison, bowing towards the aircraft and chanting words that Zhang Xiaochuan could not understand. At that moment, the buzzing of the helicopter ceased, and two people descended from it. One was a certain individual known for his flair, wearing goggles pushed up on his forehead. Erling, the welcome standards are a bit high. As he spoke, he pointed to the people kneeling on the ground. Zhang Xiaochuan went up and kicked Luochu. Tell your people to get up, no need to make a fuss. Luochu was quite pleased with the kick, as Zhang Xiaochuan usually treated Tung Yi this way, which indicated that he considered him one of his own. He quickly shouted a couple of times, and a group of people finally got up from the ground. Seeing that Luochu was very interested in that iron lump, Zhang Xiaochuan said, don't just stare at it. It won't run away. Tomorrow, you can take a ride around. Really? Thank you, my lord. What about now? Now, call someone to bring the stuff down. As they spoke, the large box was opened, revealing a small shipping container filled with pots, bowls, plates, as well as monosodium glutamate, salt, sugar, and other items. Over there, the chubby man was organizing people to build a stove and prepare tables for the dishes, directing everything with great assurance. Clearly not their first time doing this. Since it was a temporary stove, they piled some bricks and stones, using dirt as a binder in between. After building it up, they would light a fire to bake it, sealing any cracks as needed. After repeating this 2 or 3 times, the makeshift stove would be ready for use. This was Zhang Xiaochuan's second wave of conquest plans, a culinary offensive. The first wave, of course, was military conquest. Originally, it was expected that the opposing side might have thousands of people, but it turned out to be easier than anticipated. For the Plum Blossom Guards armed with automatic rifles, as long as they had enough ammunition, facing a few thousand people was no challenge, even against tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even a million cold weapon troops. They could easily push through. Thus, there was no suspense in the military conquest. Zhang Xiaochuan was not a bloodthirsty person, aside from Liao Kuan who had to die. There was no need to kill anyone else as long as they obediently followed him. Therefore, he had arranged a culinary offensive to follow up, wanting to thoroughly conquer these people's stomachs and turn them into his followers. In fact, Zhang Xiaochuan was acting unnecessarily the moment the 500 people were defeated. They had already been completely conquered, as this was the ancient rule of the jungle, survival of the fittest, no different from changing jobs today. So everyone felt no pressure. If you are strong, you are the boss, and if you are defeated one day, I will just switch to another boss. The culinary offensive continued, and the chubby man skillfully began to divide the already slaughtered cattle and sheep. The chefs from the White Dog tribe responsible for cooking were mesmerized, having spent their lives working with beef and lamb. As the chubby man explained while cutting, they learned about the meticulous details of beef, shank, tenderloin, shoulder, upper brain, and marbled beef, among others. The lamb was similar. Zhang Xiaochuan and Luo, who then sat on the high platform by the bonfire, while others were arranged on both sides of the high platform, forming a semicircular seating area, with a huge bonfire burning in the center. Opposite the high platform, on the other side of the bonfire, was where the chubby man and the White Dog tribe chefs were cooking. At this moment, it was also a kind of competition, but in reality, it would teach these tribal chefs how to behave. Now both sides were busy preparing dishes, and the food was gradually being brought to the banquet table. In front of Zhang Xiaochuan and Luo Toahu, the table was already filled with dishes. The food from the White Dog tribe was somewhat rustic, half a roasted whole sheep, a roasted beef leg, and large chunks of stewed beef and lamb, emitting an enticing aroma. Zhang Xiaochuan must admit that the cattle and sheep raised on natural grass and plants are undoubtedly high-end ingredients. The gamey taste is very mild, and just the right amount of it turns into a fragrance. Taking a piece and putting it in his mouth, the meat is tender yet firm, and the flavor of beef and mutton fills the mouth, truly delicious. Looking at the dishes prepared by the chef, the portions are quite generous as well, with tender stir-fried beef tenderloin, soft and chewy braised beef brisket, and spicy boiled beef. To impress the taste buds of the local tribe, Zhang Xiaochuan even brought out his finest chilies. The nomadic people are naturally hardy, enjoying flavors they've never tasted before, without much small talk, continuously raising their glasses to toast with Zhang Xiaochuan. Zhang Xiaochuan, facing the one toasting him, asked, "What do you think of these dishes I've arranged?" The response was enthusiastic. "This is definitely the best I've ever had. I thought our tribe's whole roasted lamb was unbeatable, but today I've realized how narrow my perspective was. I never knew such delicious food existed. Is this from a certain prosperous land?" Zhang Xiaochuan shook his head. "No, this is produced by my company." The person looked confused. "What company?" "You can think of it as a huge workshop that produces various items." The person marveled. "That's really impressive. But after today, I wonder if I can taste this deliciousness again." "That's simple. I can teach you how to cook it," Zhang Xiaochuan replied. "However, I see that you don't have the large iron pot needed for cooking." With a wave of his hand, Zhang Xiaochuan assured, "No problem, we can provide that too. But the most crucial thing is what you haven't asked yet." The person quickly inquired, "What is it?" Chapter 116. Spiced grilled meat. Zhang Xiaochuan did not answer, but instead magically pulled out a glass bottle from his belongings and sprinkled a pinch of powder over the grilled meat. He then gestured for the local to try it. As the person took a bite, their eyes immediately lit up, chewing while gazing at the glass bottle in Zhang Xiaochuan's hand. Understanding the unspoken question, Zhang Xiaochuan sprinkled more of the powder over the grilled meat, and the person eagerly grabbed and devoured several pieces before stopping. With meat still in their mouth, they mumbled, "This magical flavor is truly exceptional. I wonder what was sprinkled on the meat." Zhang Xiaochuan playfully replied, "This is a magical spice that makes food delicious." Then, he knelt down on one knee, hands raised to the sky. "My lord, I offer my soul, hoping you grant the people of the plateau this magical spice." The spice he referred to was the blend he had in the bottle, which contained ground Sichuan pepper, chili, dried shallots, salt, and MSG, collectively known as spiced salt. The reason it had such a profound impact on the local was that although the food Zhang Xiaochuan brought was delicious, it was merely a taste of something extraordinary. The seasoning is quite different. Once sprinkled on the barbecued meat they frequently enjoy, the flavor is elevated. Because it enhances a familiar delicacy, it feels as if they've tasted it 1,000 times, making it unforgettable. Instantly, they yearn to acquire the recipe, wishing to incorporate this seasoning into every barbecue in the future. For this reason, the individual is willing to sell their soul, sincerely submitting to the authority of another, who becomes their faith. The conquest of the body and mind of the people is achieved through force, while the soul is conquered through deliciousness. The leader is very satisfied with this outcome. Slowly approaching, they help the individual up and declare, "Good. I assure you, as long as you and your people do not betray me, this is just the most basic thing I can offer you." While speaking, they wave to a person in the crowd, who promptly brings over a large jar filled to the brim with seasoning. The individual feels as if they have struck gold, and immediately has some taken to add to the barbecued meat at other tables. The other members of the tribe, after tasting it, kneel down in awe, just like the first individual. The leader instructs them to rise, and after doing so, they pull the leader over to the bonfire. The leader smoothly breaks free from their grasp. The individual, being quite clever, quickly calls over 2 young women from the tribe, who take the leader by each arm and begin to dance around the bonfire. In summary, it is a night of revelry, with hearty drinking and feasting, lasting well into the early hours of the morning. The next day, the leader sleeps until noon and finds the individual waiting outside. Today, they plan to select a site for a dairy processing plant. In ancient times, resources were certainly more abundant than today, but the challenge lies in the lack of processing, storage, and transportation methods. For instance, milk is quite common among nomadic tribes and is often wasted if not consumed. However, in other regions, it is highly sought after. Since the tribe has become a subordinate, achieving milk freedom is essential, starting with the site selection for the processing plant. The leader arrives at an open area with relatively flat terrain, which is an excellent location for building the plant. This place is very suitable for our dairy processing factory. Don't you think, Chief and Uncle? The advisor nods in agreement, noting the flat land and proximity to the road. As they speak, the advisor notices a change in the individual's expression and asks, "It seems you have something to say. Do you not wish to part with this land? Is your submission merely superficial?" The advisor's words are sharp, and the individual, having been called out, looks even more troubled and anxiously explains, "No, no, no. As a man of my tribe, my words are witnessed by the divine. How could I be two-faced?" The advisor questions the meaning behind their distressed expression. "Oh well." Seeing the individual hesitate, the leader reassures them, "Feel free to speak. I am quite open-minded." With a sigh, the individual acknowledges that since they have already submitted, there is nothing that cannot be said. This land is where the small king Zhao Yifu of the Eastern Women's Kingdom plans to build a palace. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but complain. "What? Small king? Is there a big king too?" Luo Tuahu awkwardly laughed. "The big king is called Yan Air." Wow. There really are big and small kings, but the name of the big king sounds quite feminine. The ruler of the Eastern Women's Kingdom is originally female. This really refreshed Zhang Xiaochuan's understanding. Wait, so this small king named Zhao Yifu sounds so masculine. Seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan was quite uninformed, Luo Tuahu began to explain in detail. It turns out that the Eastern Women's Kingdom was originally a powerful tribal state on the Tibetan plateau called Subai. They still retain a matriarchal clan lifestyle, meaning women hold the power of the state, implementing a governance structure where the queen and the small king rule together. The daughter kingdom in Journey to the West was based on this concept. The small king is somewhat like a crown prince with real power. If the queen, the big king, dies, the small king automatically gets promoted. However, during the Sui dynasty, the small king became too powerful and had a falling out with the big king, leading to internal strife. As a result, a neighboring group took advantage of the situation and directly overthrew Subai. After the disintegration, the people of Subai regrouped and established the current Eastern Women's Kingdom, subduing the 8 Western Chang states. The Eastern Women's Kingdom has a population of over 100,000. The 8 Western Chang states, along with the Eastern Women's Kingdom, total nearly 200,000 people. This is a nomadic group, and if they go to war, they could at least muster half of that as soldiers, meaning 100,000 warriors. Thus, Luo Tuahu was worried about whether the Eastern Women's Kingdom would come to attack. Seeing this land only heightened his concerns. Not saying anything made him uneasy, but mentioning it seemed to show a hint of cowardice, which is why he looked troubled. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could speak, Mo Tianji patted Luo Tuahu's shoulder. "You have another hidden worry, don't you? You're worried that the other 7 countries will look down on you and say you're timid." Luo Tuahu thought, although he had this concern. "Was it necessary for you to state it so bluntly?" Mo Tianji continued. "Later, we can go beat up the Eastern Women's Kingdom. Make them all submit to Erlang, and then you won't be laughed at anymore." Luo Tuahu's eyes suddenly sparkled. "Is that really possible?" "Sure. It's a small matter for Erlang." Zhang Xiaochuan originally wanted to say that the White Dog tribe hadn't stabilized yet, and taking too big a step could lead to trouble, but then he thought life is short, and sometimes risks need to be taken. So he agreed. Chapter 117. The 8-nation allied forces to discuss the establishment of a milk powder factory. Zhang Xiaochuan planned to stay a few days in the White Dog tribe, and had Mo Tianji send a few inner guards familiar with construction processes to assist in building the factory. Now that there are helicopters, although it's not easy to operate over long distances, a round trip of 200 to 300 kilometers has become very pleasant. So he returned the same day to bring the people back. These past 2 days were quite difficult for Zhang Xiaochuan, as Luo Tuahu tirelessly brought various beautiful women to serve him. Although Zhang Xiaochuan was also interested, the sanitary conditions were poor, and there were no safety measures in place. If an infection occurred, it would be hard to treat. Zhang Xiaochuan sent 2 young girls back to the village. Now that Yaoer is the lady of the house, and there are still many matters concerning the company, someone has to handle the household chores. The first task for these 2 girls is to go to Sister Su for culinary training before they start their duties. During these days in the White Dog tribe, Zhang Xiaochuan has basically established the framework for the milk processing factory and has begun to mobilize personnel for land leveling. Urgent small items are being transported by helicopter, while larger items are still being brought over by horse-drawn carts, as helicopters have limited capacity. While the factory construction is in full swing, a large team is rapidly approaching. Since Luochu's reminder, Zhang Xiaochuan has not been idle and is brewing a big plan, currently discussing it with Huang Pengzi when Luochu rushed in, interrupting their conversation. "My lord, it's bad news. Just as we suspected, the Eastern Women Kingdom is attacking." Zhang Xiaochuan remained calm and asked leisurely, "Oh really? How many troops are there? And where are they now?" The scout reported that they were less than 300 miles away, mostly cavalry. And now they are estimated to be about 200 miles away. If nothing unexpected happens, they will likely surround the royal city by noon tomorrow. From the flags, it appears to be a joint attack from the Eastern Women Kingdom and 7 other nations, with at least 30,000 troops. Wow, an 8-nation coalition. I've been wanting to fight them. Luochu, confused, didn't he understand the sarcasm and asked foolishly, "What?" Zhang Xiaochuan changed the subject. "It's nothing. I've got this under control." I have a task for you that must be completed by sunrise tomorrow. Luochu respectfully replied. I will obey your command. Please give your orders. Zhang Xiaochuan picked up a blueprint from the table. Now, modify the banquet venue from a few days ago according to this design, and be quick about it. Luochu took a look at it and nearly choked, weakly asking, in the face of a great enemy, I'm busy redesigning the banquet venue. Is that appropriate? And there are 10 main seats in this layout. Luochu felt uneasy. Although your special rifles are powerful, last time it was 500 against you, which is 1 to 5. Now facing 30,000, that's 1 to 300. Even if they just stood there for you to kill, it could exhaust you. Where does your confidence in victory come from? And how can you capture all 9 leaders? Did I pledge my loyalty too early? Is it too late to switch leaders now? Zhang Xiaochuan ignored Luochu's concerns and confidently stated, knowing we will win, if we don't prepare the venue in advance. How will we celebrate later? Luochu could only respond with frustration, but thought to himself, every word seems correct, yet everything sounds wrong. Oh, my heart is so tired. In the camp of the 8-Nation Coalition, a girl in her 20s, dressed in leather armor, exudes a heroic spirit. With an oval face, high-nose bridge, shallow eye sockets, and jet-black eyes, she is a typical intellectual beauty, rational, wise, and elegant. At first glance, she appears cold and authoritative, but upon closer inspection, she reveals a certain softness. And she becomes more beautiful the more you look at her. This is Zhao Yefu, the young princess of the Eastern Women Kingdom, who is currently convening a meeting in the main military tent. The neighboring kings are Wang Dong of the neighboring country, King Deng Jiji of the rental country, King Shui Shangxi of the southern water country, King Dong Biha of the weak water country, King Teng Shizhan of the Shidong country, King Su Tongma of the Qingyuan country, and King Dong Yaoping of the Duoba country. Zhao Yifu addressed the other 7 kings. We are now only 100 miles from the city of the White Dog King, and we can arrive in just an hour on horseback. Therefore, I suggest splitting our forces, with 20,000 cavalry making a direct assault in the morning to catch the enemy off guard. King Dong Biha of the weak water country interjected, I think that is unwise. Since we received a call for help from Luotoa 5 days ago, we haven't heard anything since, and we cannot locate the enemy's movements. Currently, no one sent to scout the White Dog country has returned, which is very suspicious. It is better not to divide our forces, and to be cautious. King Shui Shangxi of the southern water country offered a different opinion. Although the attack on the White Dog country seemed sudden, there were no prior signs. I believe their forces are not numerous. They are likely using road control and scouts to confuse us. I think an assault is feasible and could lead to a decisive victory. Zhao Yifu turned to King Deng Jiji of the rental country. You are neighboring the White Dog country. What are your thoughts? Indeed, I am closest to the White Dog country. After receiving the call for help, I immediately led 1,000 brave warriors to assist, but halfway there, scouts reported that the city of the White Dog King was ablaze, indicating that the enemy had likely breached the city. There are at least 2,000 warriors inside, and with others, there are at least 5,000. Based on the timing of the call for help, it seems they were overwhelmed without resistance. It is evident that although the enemy's movements are hidden, they must have at least 20,000 troops, all of whom are elite fighters. So you also do not support splitting our forces? Exactly. What do the other kings think? The other kings expressed their opinions, which were mostly in line with the previous speakers, with some supporting and others opposing. Seeing that everyone had their own views and no consensus was reached, Zhao Yifu made a firm decision. I have made up my mind. Everyone return to your camps to rest today, and tomorrow at the hour of the dragon. Gather your cavalry and follow me to assault the city of the White Dog King. The 7 kings responded in agreement. Although Zhao Yifu is a minor king of the Eastern Woman Kingdom, since the previous dynasty of the Supai Kingdom was overthrown, the power structure of minor and major kings is still in place, but the powers of minor kings have been severely restricted. Therefore, since taking office, she has not achieved much. This time, having the opportunity to lead an expedition of such scale, it is inevitable that she feels a sense of inflated power. Although the queen of the Eastern Woman Kingdom has a good relationship with her, who wouldn't he want to prove their worth? Zhao Yifu felt a rush of excitement and urgency to earn prestige in this battle, leading her to choose a relatively risky assault. As the hour of the dragon arrived, Zhao Yifu looked at the impressive 20,000 cavalry and waved her hand. Let us go. Zhao Yifu took the lead, displaying her heroic demeanor. Behind her, the sound of hooves thundered and dust billowed, with banners fluttering. For a moment, Zhao Yifu felt triumphant and full of ambition. Chapter 118, The White Dog King. You are truly a dog in the city of the White Dog King. Luo was pacing back and forth like an ant on a hot pan. At that moment, Zhang Xiaochuan strolled in leisurely from outside, still yawning. He complained, What's the rush that you had to call me up now? I went to bed very late yesterday, and I'm still quite sleepy. He yawned as he spoke. Luo Toa, who was almost going crazy. Your Majesty, the enemy is at the gates, and you have no response at all. Are we just going to sit here and wait for death? Zhang Xiaochuan was startled. Huh? No preparations? He then looked at the plump man. Where's Uncle Mo? The plump man hurriedly replied, Master. Uncle Mo has already gone to the designated location to set up an ambush as planned. General Teng Yi is also on standby at the city wall. Zhang Xiaochuan nodded, then looked at Luo Tuahu. Isn't this a good response? Luo Tuahu had completely lost it, and said what was on his mind. Your Majesty, this preparation is too simple. Although General Mo has gone to ambush, he only brought 5 people. And although General Teng and his troops are skilled, How can they fight against 200? You won't even let me arrange for the White Dog warriors to assist in the battle, but instead you want to prepare some meaningless banquet venue. Your Majesty, if you continue like this, it would be better to abandon the city and flee now. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could speak, the plump man was already anxious. In his heart, this master was like a deity, and no one could criticize him. Luo Tuahu, you must not be disrespectful to master. Those 20,000 troops are all under master's control. If you don't understand, just keep quiet and watch. Luo Tuahu looked back at Zhang Xiaochuan, who basically shared the same sentiment as the plump man, and his heart sank. Now he could only wait for Zhang Xiaochuan to be defeated and then submit to the Eastern Woman Kingdom again, but by then, it was uncertain whether the